What's good, SMITE fans? Greetings and salutations. Good morning and welcome to the Midseason Invitational. We've had 4 days of competition, and this will be the 5th and the final. My name's Tom Badender. I will be your host for those finals, and joining me to analyze will be Anatoly Alexeyev. How you doing there, bud?
Really good. I'm excited to see the finals between two Scrim partners, actually.
We've got Splyce and Renegades going head-to-head. Splyce, of course, coming off their recent World Championship win, struggling to gather their footing as the regular season has gone forward. But the Renegades, on the other hand, late to the party, but turning up, just like you would expect from carry player Funballer there. You can see how these teams have made it. We started off with the first kind of cross-play situation in SMITE history. Some console teams stepped up, some minor league teams stepped up. Shout-outs to Hype Unit, and shout-outs to Armada, who actually not only day 2'd, Armada continued to go on to fight against Simplicity, but ultimately it was the minor league and the pro league that would go head-to-head in the big boy bracket.
And Armada, despite wanting to play against Dignitas, they got Rival, and they 2-0'd Rival in that best of 3. An impressive performance out of them, but then ultimately falling a little bit short into Splyce Renegades with a very dominating performance yesterday up against Dignitas.
That was the key there. Armada versus Rival was actually a lot closer than I think people might have anticipated, but Splyce came out and we were all right, well, we didn't expect Splyce to go the way they did against Rival, but after Splyce came out, I mean, you know, they didn't play Kamazats, but they were a bat out of hell for sure. Renegades on the other side of the bracket, though, and it's only 3 quick games.
Oh yeah, Dignitas certainly weren't prepared for the likes of Renegades. Both of these teams are very creative with what they like to play. That man on your screen right there, Screammmmm, especially in that jungle position, has a very flexible god pool. They don't prioritize his picks all the time, but sometimes you do have to worry about his Erlang Shen.
That's really the key there, is that what I love about Screammmmm is that he doesn't really need to play whatever he wants to play, but he can. He said in the interview, hey man, listen, I'm a meta slave. If they're going to give me Erlang Shen, they're going to lose the game. So
sure.
Does he want to play Erlang every day? No. Does he want to walk out of here a richer man with another trophy? Absolutely. And so Screammmmm pulling out the Erlang, certainly not unexpected.
Definitely not, and I think that Renegades are certainly going to be prepared for that kind of shenanigans. And the last time that these two teams played, back in Week 11, it was Splyce getting the better end of the trade 3-1, and between Screammmmm and also Venenu, in 3 of those victories, they all played a different god.
You know, we mentioned Splyce, defending world champions. However, they have had some roster changes, and these 2 players are those roster changes. Screammmmm coming up for the minor league. I think this was an important call-up. Sino goes a different direction, and it just so happens that Screammmmm, one of the best junglers in the game, coming out of forced reprieve, if you will. He finishes off school, comes and is able to join up in the pro league. That's excellent, all well and good. I think the problem for them was in that solo lane, they don't have somebody, so they have a substitute who just might be the best player in the world. Baskin is going to be playing over there for Splyce.
It's a great point that you make, because all 5 victories that Splyce had in the online portion, or rather not online, but off LAN, was with Baskin and Screammmmm. It's great to see Season 4 World Champion Screammmmm and Venenu join up with the Season 5 World Champions Aror and CycloneSpin to make this kind of super team alongside the minor league dominating superstar Baskin.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen later. But for right now, Baskin's on the team, and that's going to be a big part of our analysis. Certainly want to look at that. Baskin's falling in line with everybody else, but one thing that hasn't changed about the Splyce roster is that leadership. Auror's been a big part of the team. He's driven them to a world championship. We'll see if he can drive them beyond. Aror standing by with some words before the game.
I'm here with Aurora support for Splyce, and happy to have you here with me, man. The first thing I want to ask is, I mean, you all are here in the finals of this tournament after your kind of, tumultuous first phase. How much does it mean for the whole team, but especially you and Kabam and CycloneSpin, to be able to win this tournament here today?
Feels good to be in the finals, but we haven't won yet, so we still got today to play out.
But is it like sort of a big tournament? Would you all see it as like really validating if you were able to get the win here at this event?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, this other team here, Renegades, you've had a lot of time to watch them play, and really, in particular, it feels like they've had a really good land from Dardez and from Funballer. Do you all adjust what you've been seeing from them, or has your game plan just been to focus on what your team's doing?
I think this set's going to be interesting because we mainly scrim them up into the tournament, and we have a lot of games on what they played in this tournament. So both teams kind of know what to expect. So it should be good games for sure.
Our last thing is you've had some really, really strong early games, especially here throughout this tournament. Is that something your team looks to play around, or do you guys just kind of take it if you're able to get it, and if not, that's fine. You guys got some other stuff in the in the back pocket.
Yeah, we just play the game and we see if we get opportunities, we take them. If we don't, then we just farm late game and team fight and do really well at that.
All right, man. Well, good luck here for you all in your set. Thanks for talking with me. We'll get it back up to the desk. Let them break it down.
A rare look at a side of Aror that we really get to see. We're privy to the players' kind of other side, right? We're here all the time. The players, that's one of the coolest things about Season 6 is that players are live in the building every damn time they play. And of course, totally, we've got a chance to get to know these players over the years. Aror, front and center. This guy is jovial. He's a goofball. He's always having fun, and that's how he presents himself on camera, even when it's game time. This is the Aror we see before game that the camera doesn't always catch, and it's very interesting to see him with Finch just go, "Yeah, we haven't won yet. Calm down, buddy. Yes, it's important for us to win." We don't get that Aror very often, and it's cool to get for the fans to get a chance to see that.
This is one of two Arors. Either number one, this is super serial Aror that's taken this like to the ultimate preparation, or this is sleepy time Aror that just woke up, getting ready to play the Kumbhakarna.
Oh, not a chance at all. He's super locked in, and he should be, because I think this is one of the taller tasks that he's had here in a while. You know, Renegades, I've been high on these guys since they came into the scene. From roster reveals, go check my videos. I've been talking about these guys, and we're finally getting a chance to see what happens. You know, they were a little bit late here. Team Visa kind of struggled to get here, so their kind of ramp-up time, their warm-up time, if you will, was a little bit different from some of the other teams. But with mechanical prowess like Dardez, leadership like they have in the support position, they've got a little bit of everything here at Anatoly, and it's been really impressive to watch.
It's really scary to see what Renegades have been able to do in such a short amount of time. They actually finished the regular season the same exact scoreline as Splyce at 5-4, but they're looking a lot more dominating with how they've been playing at MSI with that 3-0 victory over Team Dignitas. A lot of it because of Dardez's Anhur. If I'm Splyce and I saw this game and I saw this play, I'm worried about the Anhur.
That's the play, man. And what I love about Dardez's Anhur, which, by the way, he can play other characters, but why when you're doing that well? And it opens up so many different things for your team. Anhur, so incredibly mechanically oriented. And this guy started as a support.
Yeah.
Nice turnaround there for Dardez. Nika, the young gun. When you look at the other four members of the team, I think they have more superlatives. They have more trophies on their mantle. They've just won more Pro League games. Nika hasn't been around for as long as these guys. But this week, this season, Nika has absolutely stepped up and been important for the squad. He's the solo lane the Renegades seem to need.
Normally, when we look at Nika or we look at a lot of solo laners, we always think of like how are they going to bring an impact in the team fights and wait for them to kind of come online. But in the set yesterday, Nika was present throughout every single stage of the game, making highlight plays, even getting focus banned up against Team Dignitas. An impressive performance out of him, and I'm expecting a very diverse god pool from him because up against Splyce, they've been scrim partners. I think that they're also going to focus out either Nika or Dardez, and in the one game that Splyce did lose to Renegades, it was Nika playing the Vamana, Dardez actually with that win, playing the Chiron of all things, so a very interesting set to watch soon.
I mean, this team has been, like you said, interesting is putting it lightly, but as far as interesting players is concerned, Cherryo has been one of my favorite guys to watch in the pros scene. He's kind of struggled at times and not always been on a top team, and yesterday he got a little emotional, making it to finals for one of the first times in his career. I'm very excited. John Finch is going to stand by, and he's got some words with the Egyptian mastermind.
I'm here with Cherryo, jungler for the Renegades. My first question here, man, you all are now in the finals here of this tournament. You were a team that was just put together here, it feels like, for the start of this season. How much does it mean for you all here if you were to be able to win this event and just being here in the finals too?
It means a lot. I don't think about it too much, just to focus on the game and hope we come out on top today.
Well, Splyce has been playing really well, especially in the early game around Aror. I mean, when you all have seen them play that much that well, do you adjust to them here in the middle of the tournament, or do you still just come in and play your game plan and try and handle it in game?
You can't really fight Aror early game. I'm just gonna be running away from him the whole game pretty much, trying to get as much farm as I can, and once I get my items, we'll try to kill him, I guess.
Well, these are your script partners too. How tough is it to still come in with some new stuff when you scrim these guys all the time and keep things kind of in your back pocket when these are the ones that see a lot of your strats?
We scrim them a lot. They pretty much know everything we do, so maybe we'll play some stuff we didn't really practice just to throw them off. We'll see. Like we'll try to adapt to the draft as much as we can.
I'm going to give you one more question, even though I said 3. I'm going to apologize to you here now, Cherryo. How easy for you is it when Dardez is playing as well as he's been playing here, especially when he gets on her every game in a row, that kind of thing, too? Does that make your job any easier when he plays this well for you in the middle lane?
It makes it really easy when I know I can trust Dardez and iRaffer to have my back when I do some exceptional plays. So it feels great to play with a mid laner that I trust, really.
All right, well, good luck there to your whole team. It's been fun watching you so far. I'll get it back to the desk. I got a little more to break down.
Cherryo with some honest words there and getting ready for this one. And, as always, Cherryo very just conscious of the situation. And, he's always been a powerful player in his own right. And we always bring up the LAN, or excuse me, the ping. He plays from a place with very high ping. And now LAN, that's different. But realistically for me, one of the bigger variables for Cherryo was kind of trust in his own gameplay. And right there, he said something very interesting to me, Anatoly, as we get ready for game number 1. P's and B's on the way, by the way. He said, it's very comforting when I know I have iRaffer and Dardez that are always going to play that way. And I think that's one of the most important things. You, as a player, you come into different types of personalities, and Cherryo is this isn't the only player like this. There are guys that are kind of more self-critical about their own stuff, and when you surround them with rock solid kind of backbone like that, that's the important part. I think that's why we've got a chance to see Cherryo play these hyper carries.
I mean, Cherryo's come a long way since his Season 2 days with London Conspiracy, Season 3 with Sanguine, now surrounded by very comfortable players that can adapt to his style and a style that he can adapt to, vice versa, to make Renegades feeling so versatile between picks and bans, to force out a first on her ban.
That's the big deal. We're jumping into game number 1. We're quite literally jumping into game number 1. Anhur's dispersing into that first ban spot. You heard these guys talking about being scrim partners, and watching Dignitas not ban Anhur at all. An Anhur ban does change things, right? And some of these teams might go, all right, we can it's Anhur. He's been in the game since SMITE has been a game.
Yeah.
We can figure out how to play against the Anhur. Splyce is sitting here going, no, you can't. You need to ban it. That's what we'll do. So Splyce and RNG, their competitive edge, the amount of times they've played against each other, certainly showing here with Splyce leading the way on her ban. And they'll take a Chronos to start the draft.
I'm a little surprised that it was a Muzen ban because with Chronos up as well, I thought Renegades was going to go for a throwaway ban of the Hercules because Splyce really relies on Aror having that pick. In the 3 victories that Splyce had over Renegades, Aror was playing the Hercules in all 3 of those victories.
For me, that means Renegades are thinking about playing it themselves. Nika, of course, can play that Hercules over there on the short side. If you talk about iRaffer playing Hercules support, sure. I mentioned this yesterday on the broadcast. When I talk about support players, there's generally an identifiable kind of play style. You look at Jeff Hindler, for example, usually back of the line trying to peel for his carries, and then you look at, let's say, Ares players like Collis, who are in front of the team fight trying to aggress. iRaffer, not only can he play in the middle as well with picks like Ganesh, but can kind of do both.
Sure.
And that's really important. I would not be surprised to see Renegades pick up Hercules for him. But right now they'll start with the big guy, Zhong, and they'll pair that up with a Naja.
A lot of success for Funballer in that long lane with any mage, and now that he's found a tanky one to kind of survive the 1v1s, he's been left to his own devices to farm, and Zhong being left alone to farm is almost as scary, if not scarier, than a Chronos being left alone to farm.
If you're just joining us, we've had 4 days of competition before this. Go back and watch the Renegades Dignitas set. It was that damn good, and honestly, Renegades did you a favor and made it 3 quick games. But the reason I bring it up is Zhong post-game, Funball says, if I had red buff instead of Dardez, I would have got the 1 versus 2 with the Zhong. The prominence in the long lane is definitely high.
He almost got it even without the red buff, which is how close. I said he was fine, right? Like, he got the 1, almost got the second one, a cleanup kill, making it a 2 for 1. And I love the identity still of Renegades sticking to their guns. Dardez is going to be playing a hunter mid. Funballer going to be playing a mage in the long lane.
Same time, Splyce doing the same. Scream, guess what you're playing, buddy? The Erlang Shen. Jormungandr selected as well. And up until this point, the picks and bans has gone relatively quickly in comparison to other teams. I think that's, again, the experience these guys have playing against each other.
An important thing that Renegades did to pair up with the Zhong is take the Naja for themselves, because you don't want to be able to get taken to the sky with the Windfire Wheels as you're dropping those ghosts. And
That's the worst.
knowing Scream, if Naja was available and Erlang Shen, if he sees the Zhong, he probably would have prioritized the Naja instead.
Important ban here by Renegades. Naja might just be the support character of choice, and so Renegades get out of the woods. The first half of the draft gone without the owner of the Nemean Lion. Splyce ban out Geb, which iRaffer has played fantastically throughout this tournament, and they are discussing the next one. As I said, Naja could be that support, but it's also one of Cherryo's go-to carry characters, which is why I like this draft for Renegades. Splyce's Geb ban might just be trash because it's going to iRaffer, or it might be the right choice. I think they have to ban one of each.
Well, in the 32 regular season games that Renegades played, 14 of them was with Cherryo playing the Naja. Not to say that he doesn't have a diverse god pool, because we've seen him play the Cabrakan, the Athenas from time to time, so it's definitely out there. It's just one of his most comfortable picks.
I just think Naja is one of the more versatile junglers. You know, a lot of times I talk about Hunbat's kind of having two gear shift depending on the way the game goes. Naja is that to the nth degree. If you get that quick level 2 gank, all of a sudden you've got this massive lead. Those crits start to really hurt. Your ring bounce is bringing people down to half HP. That said, you go 1 and 4. We have all this cooldown, and you're just stunning people, taking them to the sky, and setting up the other carries. So I love that choice over there. Renegades thinking about Khepri, but deciding on the Horus instead. The conversation must have been about magical versus physical, I think, as far as the amount of power. But Horus for iRaffer, certainly no slouch, and Splyce very quickly with Kumba and Nuwa.
This is something that they've been running before in the past. Kumbhakarna for Aror is definitely popular, but what's not popular is this last pick for Renegades. We haven't seen this in a hot minute.
I didn't expect Chang'e. Let me calm down real quick. I expected to see weird stuff that we haven't seen, because what we are missing as fans and as viewers here, chapters 1 and 2 essentially. Splyce and Renegades are scrim partners. They play by themselves, and so they've done this is a 7-game set where the first 2 were played off screen essentially. They know that we talk about meta of the set. They know what each other are playing. The Hercules is already banned out, and they've gone past that first step. So Renegades with the Chang'e, what are they looking for? I
think it's just like AFK farming in the solo lane. I don't expect Zhong to go there, even though that would be more popular. I think that Funballer's been running the Zhong. You keep that comfort level still there in the long lane. Chang'e doesn't have to back to base because that passive a lot of the time. And there could be a lot of kill opportunities. With a waxing moon, you have Naja rotating over. You gotta watch out if you're gonna be Baskin.
Also, in the world of hybrid solo laners, this could be the one where Chang'e shines. Splyce, Renegades, game number 1 of finals. Let her in.
Welcome in, boys and girls. It is Splyce versus Renegades, the 5th and 6th seed teams coming into this event. They're going to square off. Ryan Bailey will join me for all this cast this morning, and Doug will be on the 1s and 2s, I believe is how you say it.
As the kids say. That's right. The 1s and 2s for Doug. And it isn't Chang'e solo like I thought so it was going to be. It's going to be Chang'e ADC for Funballer, who refuses to find the Hunter tab as of late, but it's been working out for him. And I kind of like this pick up against the Chronos for 2 reasons. Number 1, Chronos' big way to outbox you is with the stun, guaranteeing his 1 right afterwards. And Chang'e never in a million years gets stunned by that with her waxing, or with her 2. And then on the other side, she's a lot of poke damage, which is what you want to do against Chronos. You want to whittle him down, get him low, so that rewind doesn't give you full value.
And not only that, you've got Zhong up against the Jormungandr in the solo lane too, which we've known from how the season's gone so far is pretty effective.
A lot of people seem to really like it. It's just one of those picks that farms very effectively and then joins these team fights and feels unbeatable whenever they get a whole lot of farm and just start running at you.
iRaffer in the jungle though, trying to defend the blue buff on this right-hand side from the aggression of Aror and Baskin at this level 1. Updraft is the first ability he's taken here, so that knock-up does come into play. Not only that, the slow too.
Most people have been starting the 2, though, the Fracture on Horus, so a little bit interesting if iRaffer decides to go with something different.
I think that was mainly because Renegades and Splyce both went for solo wave clear on that first wave, and obviously Fracture not as good at wave clear as the Updraft is.
And a much bigger commit, as you kind of have to dash in for it.
Well, Scream and Cherryo going to meet in the jungle. Scream looks to invade the back half. He's Renegades. Cherryo already used the ring toss, but recommits with the sash and gets the beads out of Scream. Walks into iRaffer, but iRaffer's still at level 1, can't do much about it. The blue buff, however, being invaded by Splyce.
This is looking rough for Baskin because Dardez has made his way over from the mid lane. This is looking good for Renegades.
Dardez going to dash in, look for the axe after the CC already applied, and Baskin will be first blood. Second blood onto Scream from Nika, and Renegades on the defense of their own jungle have come up big.
That's either on Venenu for not calling Dardez's potential rotation, or for Splyce not backing it up and respecting it. That's a bad double death to take.
Bit of aggression though, as Renegades got overly aggressive there for a second. Raffa getting low, but Baskin and Aror, 2 Guardians, and only level 2. Won't have the abilities to bring him down and answer back those kills just yet.
And Baskin overcommitting, losing him, sure, it feels bad, but at least it's only first blood. But Scream really goes in there and sacrifices himself for no reason. There's no way Baskin ever survives in that spot, but Scream decides that one just wasn't good enough for the Renegades.
Let's have a little look back at those first 2 kills of the game then, because it was quite action-packed, a lot of aggression in the solo lane as we've seen before, but this was Dardez making the rotation to this fight. Break it down, Ryan.
This is pretty easy. I mean, Baskin's on a Jormungandr that doesn't have any mobility whatsoever. You've got a level 1 Kumbhakarna and an Erlang Shen with no beads. You're safe to dive in there every single time.
And then the exorcism after the fact from Nika. I think the exorcism on Zhong is something that goes underestimated a lot of the time. Honestly, I think it was Funballer yesterday that just showed the power of that in that 2v1 situation.
I completely agree with you. I think the big thing that makes people underrated is they don't realize how low Zhong's cooldowns are. Zhong has not a very long cooldown based on his 1 or his 2, and that lets him fight in things like solo or duo lane really effectively, whereas in mid, he can't really step up that far. Junglers are going to be there a lot more often. I think that's where we really get to see those lower cooldowns shine. Plus, in solo lane, you get your blue buff, get that extra little bit of CDR, you really start to feel it.
Yeah, the rise of Zhong really did come about this year because of the change to how his passive works and the fact that he doesn't need his 1-2 combo to stack up and get those protections online.
It's not only that, but it's the fact that he's getting his passive up from his own minions dying as well.
Exactly,
it's not just stripping the souls from the enemy minions. He gets really tanky, really fast, and still has really, really good damage numbers and decent control as well. And a fed Zhong is one of the hardest characters to take down in all of SMITE because he blinks in, pops the ultimate, doubles his protections, gets a whole bunch of extra damage there. I mean, it's really hard to deal with.
Now, time to speak about it quite a bit on the desk, and to be fair, he's right to do so. Splyce and Renegades owned up to being relatively regular scrim partners, so they both know each other's strategies and tendencies, and that's why I think you see the likes of this Chang'e in the duo lane, because he's trying to throw their opposition for a loop against maybe picks they've not had to deal with before.
That's what I assume as well, though I guess it's possible that Funballer has been practicing Chang'e in the duo lane and it went well for them. A lot of times with teams, when you're playing up against a team that you think you could face, particularly in a tournament like this where you know that Splyce on the other side of the bracket, but they're good enough to potentially make it to finals, you'll try something, it'll go really well once, and then you'll never touch it again because you don't want them to really remember it, you don't want to give them extra practice against it, and you'll kind of keep that in your back pocket as a contingency plan.
It's also the thing of having multiple different scrim teams that you go up against, because then you can maybe practice 1 or 2 strategies against one team,
right,
and then the other team doesn't catch wind of that for these sort of situations here. In the duo lane with that Chang'e though, one thing we don't touch on too much, but this is definitely a potent option here, is that bunny passive from Chang'e.
It's so big. You just get to stay in lane for so long. That plus the extra mana from the cooldown boots that Funballer has, Mage's Blessing. He doesn't have to go back to base very often at all. Still in the early game, you kind of have to because your mana pool just isn't big enough, and you start to feel it for having to use so many abilities to clear the wave. But come level 12 or so, Funballer could end up staying out on the map for a long time.
Now in terms of these compositions as well, hang on a second, I pick up a cut in mid from Aror, followed by a Yawn, but Dardez will just walk away. There was no one there to really follow up, unfortunately, for the side of Splyce. But these compositions, Splyce are very magical heavy here, which helps and hinders at the same time.
Funballer uses the ultimate first, doesn't use the 2 at all quite yet. Now finally going to use it, and taunt is there from Scream. Great patience from him.
And I think that's the one key you'll see at this level is the ability usage more than anything else. The mechanical skill of expecting your opposition to do one thing, so you wait for that to happen before following up with your own CC.
Moonlit Walt's incredibly powerful ability, but you have to know what you're going up against in the Chang'e, and if you wait it out and be patient, it won't hurt you too much.
Dardez on the Ullr this game. Yes, it's not Anhur. It is a different hunter though, but one in a very similar vein, if not a little bit more potent in the early game.
Exactly. It's a little bit less mid-game focused, I would say, and it does different things than what Dardez's Anhur does. Dardez's Anhur brings so much control and great piercing damage with that ultimate. Dardez's use of Desert Fury is the big thing that always stands out to me in the way that he finds great spots to use it and is willing to use it liberally in team fights. Ullr is much more single target focused and doesn't have that control that Anhur really brings. Sure, he's got the axe stun, but shifting sands is Anhur's big ability in team fights most of the time. Ullr doesn't have anything like that. So even though it's similar, I do think that the ban from Splyce was worth it.
Aror gonna get yawn, but turned around straight away by Renegades, and Cherryo might be able to get a kill here. You know what? Just before that groggy strike connects, he'll use the Windfire Wheels and bring him down. Venenu gonna try and defend with the clay minions effectively to push them back, but Dardez and iRaffer will at least secure the kill as iRaffer blinks over the wall, and it actually sets up a kill on Screammmmm too.
Man, another tough death for Screammmmm that feels really bad. He got his first one trying to save Baskin in the solo lane right there, loses it for Aror.
Waxing Moon onto CycloneSpin, that gets his beads, and he's running away as fast as his little legs can take him. Rewind back to Dardez, and Dardez off the mark with the axe. That'll get the beads out of Dardez though, but Cyclone still hasn't got a home.
Cherryo, great sash stun. CycloneSpin down to the ring bounce, and Venenu's gonna be next.
And now Aror respawns, but now he's under pressure by 4 members. Baskin even making this rotation to try and stop the Renegades' aggression, who are now up 6-1 in kills.
Big root though coming from Aror. Baskin making all his way over. Another good pin from Screammmmm, and they're gonna have to keep this chase going.
Dardez could be under pressure here, but Baskin not paying attention there with the World Serpent. He wants the kill on Chang'e. And Screammmmm getting that kill for me is rather important there, considering the first 2 he just took down himself.
Baskin's been very willing to rotate early on in games during his time with Splyce, and right here it really, maybe not saves the game for them, but sets them back up on the right track because Renegades have really started to get the ball rolling.
I think that's the one difference you can see in the solo laners now. Obviously, Baskin making that rotation, but there's a bit of an experience lead for Nika now in this solo lane. Sure, Baskin just hit level 9, but Nika got a bit of free farm over here and didn't have to worry too much. And also continue to stack up those coups. Woof! That was quick.
Man, so much damage from Nuwa even early on in the game when you get to confirm that minion stun. And Venenu has really made this pick look a lot better than I think most mid laners do. His ability to find these minion stuns and play aggressively on this pick has been really impressive to me. But even despite that, he's down a full level and a half to Dardez right now.
I think this could be because Dardez is 2-0-4 in less than 9 minutes in the game.
That doesn't hurt, that's for sure. You're not losing experience for going 2-0-4.
It always worries me though, because sometimes when you come into these finals, you expect maybe, you know, a slow starting game between the two. This has been all action. 9 kills, 9 minutes.
We like to see it, absolutely, and I don't think it's going to get a whole lot slower, maybe for a little bit as they want to get their farm ready for the late game. I think both teams probably feel very good about their late game comps.
Splyce looking to defend their red buff here. Ward is right behind where Aror stood now, so they've got full vision. Waxing Moon from Funballer hits onto Aror. The Scream was pressured by iRaffer and Dardez. Good stash from Cherryo onto CycloneSpin, who still doesn't have his beads. And because of that, the Windfire Wheels will connect. Aror gets the epic uppercut onto Dardez, but that doesn't slow down Renegades. They steal the red buff, and they take another life.
And that was just a straight up 4-on-4, but at this point in the game, Renegades 4-on-4 is just a little bit stronger. I was saying I like Venenu's Nuwa, but it's not as strong as an Ullr at level 11. It doesn't bring as much.
Nika getting a bit aggressive on this right-hand side, though, trying to do a bit of proxy farming. He got the proxy farm wave. His team are doing the Gold Fury, though. And sure, even if Nika, maybe he gets a kill, actually. No, cancel that.
He's no Funballer.
For a second, I thought he was going to do his best Funball impression. Yeah, you're right on.
Close enough, but not quite enough for the Renegade solo laner. Good attempt, but that's just Splyce at least getting something off losing the objective.
But what if he had red buff there?
He would have killed them all.
That's true.
That's give the Zhong red buff. No matter where he is, Zhong support, red buff. We've learned something today.
And with that, Baskin will just take this window to steal away the blue from Nika in this right-hand side. iRaffer was there to try and defend and soak up some experience more than anything in this solo lane, knowing that Nika's going to have to respawn and his teleport's on cooldown.
No real worry for Nika, though. I mean, even though he falls a little bit behind in XP because of that death, he's still in a fairly healthy spot. I mean, he's level 11. Venenu's level 8. Even CycloneSpin, the ADCs that normally get so much farm, is only level 11.
Keeping an eye on where the next action will be. Red buff has respawned for Renegades on this left-hand side. Dardez going to pick that one up for himself. Funballer has the red from Splyce's side of the jungle here. But pressure so far, from Splyce it seems to have been around the blue buff right-hand side, whereas Renegades really focused, dialed in on this red of Splyce's.
And that's just playing around your strengths. It's playing around Dardez on the Ullr in the mid lane. You want to get him ahead, keeping Venenu a little bit behind. On the right-hand side, Zhong is going to get a lot tankier as the game goes on. He's not particularly tanky right now, and Scream's base damage is enough, especially with Nika going up for a lot of for less physical defense and more health slash magic D. It looks like he's going to go for Voidstone next. Pretty typical up against another magical solo laner, but it does mean that Nika's particularly vulnerable up against the Erlang jungle.
And I was going to bring up the whole magical composition that Splyce have going here. 4 magical members on this team, only Scream in the jungle as the physical option. Sure, they've still got Tower Shred, because Chronos fantastic at killing objectives for the most part in terms of towers and structures.
Yep.
But is that an issue for Splyce going forward, or is it more to do with Renegades?
No, I don't. It can be an issue potentially. I mean, you already see a Voidstone here for Funballer because it gives him that level of extra protection. But it's really hard to itemize fully against all those magicals. I think that a Heartward Amulet for iRaffer, which it looks like he's going for next, will help him out a lot. It's going to be hard to kill iRaffer, I think, but the rest of the team shouldn't be too tanky once Splyce get everything rolling, because there's a lot of magical penetration that you can interweave together. I'm talking about, Demonic Grip, Spear of the Magus.
Don't get too upset about this. It's
so beautiful.
It's such a good game one. It's not a problem. I mean, I completely agree with you. The amount of magical that there is on the side of Splyce may be one issue, but then Renegades have to itemize against it too. In response, you did just catch those Renegades going again into Splyce's jungle. This time they weren't able to get the red buff. CycloneSpin has secured that for himself, but they still find an objective. The purple buff stripped away. It just seems like a consistent pattern so far in the first few minutes of this game that Renegades have found a win on this left-hand side. That window, though, Ryan, should end up closing out soon on how easy it is to keep going back for these buffs.
Agreed, because CycloneSpin is going to start to ramp up very, very quickly. He's already got halfway on his Warlock staff, so that's a great start for him. He's expecting a slower lane with a Chang'e as his lane opponent, and that, I think, he's very comfortable against this kind of god, because he used to play solo lane so much. You know, he's a solo lane main. He saw a lot of Chang'e solo back in the day, so I think that his expectation of a slow lane, a more passive lane, is one that he's very comfortable with.
Baskin going for the Cursed Ankh this game in terms of Relic at the moment, and that's something that I'm interested to see because we've not seen too much of that in certain matchups. Against the Zhong Chang'e and of course the Horus, it could cause a problem, but Cherryo with a sash into the Windfire Wheels once more on landing. The Waxing Moon connects, but Cyclone is still very healthy.
And he's going to get it all back with that rewind. Aror wants to keep it going, but Raffer's getting everybody out.
Oh, no, he doesn't. He don't get anyone out because the epic uppercut from Aror denied Cherryo from getting away. Counter to the escape option from Renegades, and Dardez, who just leaped, is being chased down by Baskin and that World Serpent.
Wants to keep it going until finally decides to bring it back, but Venenu get picked in the mid lane by Nika.
It could get worse though. Nika though trapped now because Auror's coming to action. Funballer, iRaffer, and Dardez are on the way, and Nika's bought enough time to maybe turn another kill into Renegade's favor. 2 kills then off that engagement.
That's exactly why Scream is spending so much time in the solo lane earlier on, because Nika eventually will get so tanky while still providing that damage. It wasn't a Void Stone, it was a Stone of Binding, and it worked out beautifully because Nika gets a little bit of extra physical protection, and that passive is so great on Zhong. He's got 2 different forms of easily confirmable CC, and it makes it that much easier for him to solo then.
The experience difference just slightly favoring Renegades there. Even though, you know, the fight overall, it was only a 2-for-1, it's the objectives that are more important. The tier 1 tower falling down in the mid lane opens up this map even more so in Renegade's favor.
Now it's really tough for Venenu to stay safe. He's got his ultimate, sure, but he still hasn't hit level 12. He hasn't been able to get that Aegis online, and those constant red buff invades. Splyce usually is so willing to match your early aggression. It's the Hercules support from Aror. It's Merlin or AMC in the mid lane for Venenu. But with those 2 picks taken away, that means that he's going to something a little bit more passive. Nuwa's really been his 3rd choice, it seems, so far during this midseason invitational, and Renegades really do a good job of preying on that with their picks and bans.
And to be fair, they've been preying on everybody with Dardez more than anything else. The Funballer, the plays from the Anhur and the Ullr have really caused a problem, but red buff being looked at once more. by Renegades. iRaffer just happy to be in the pit there and watch, but they're actually committing to the Primal Fury. I think I just heard the ult from Venenu go out there. They did. They've got full vision then of Renegades in action at that Primal Fury, and iRaffer's taken more damage than bargained for. He tried to get to the skies, not this time. Splyce get a free pick on to iRaffer.
Man, iRaffer, if he's another couple inches towards his team, I think that goes a lot better, but just gets caught out a little bit too much. A sick ultimate there from Scream actually caught the fracture, and that's why iRaffer immediately had to go into the ultimate. We've seen iRaffer try and use it in combat a couple times now. It's not really where To the Skies shines. You want to use it as a surprise ambush tool the majority of the time.
Let's put it this way, it's not good for your own personal escape. It can be good to try and get a team out. You saw him try and do it with Cherryo earlier on. But for own defense, not a chance, friend. You're going to stand there and get beaten the hell out of if you just stand still.
Can you tell that Splyce has played against this Horus a lot, though? I mean,
sure.
they look very comfortable in understanding what he can do and how long it's going to take him to get his damage off.
It doesn't surprise me that these are the two support picks we've got. That's what I'm looking at here. The Kumbhakarna for Aror, he's the one that's really brought this to prominence. And for fairness, iRaffer's been playing a lot of the Horus through this tournament. It's taken a while for Horus to really hit his stride in competitive play, but we are seeing a lot more of him now.
And he looks phenomenal in these players that really know how to use him, despite Splyce looking pretty comfortable against him, I think. How many sick blink fractures and knockups has iRaffer gotten? I think iRaffer has been the best Horus player so far in the SPL or the minor league for that matter. He's just been the best Horus player on the planet so far. Not a lot of people touching him quite yet, but iRaffer has really, I think, inspired people with his play.
You can see Splyce just trying to defend their buffs again. The red buff is spawning relatively soon, but Renegade's already committing to the Primal Fury, trying to see if Splyce respond. Venenu going to use the ultimate to get some vision again, and blinking from Scream, but Scream gets CC chained and dead before he can do anything after the blink. Now Cyclone, who was trying to rotate around the back, has found himself in no man's land, and he needs some help soon.
Oh, right back into the teeth of the Renegades, though. He gets a little bit of damage off, but not enough.
Nika going to claim that kill, and the Fury did go the way of Renegades during that too. Not only that, Venenu without his ultimate now is exposed and taken down, and all Aror and Baskin can do is watch on as 3 members of their team end up falling.
Renegades just operate so well as a unit, don't they? I mean, they feel like a hive mind with the way that they play the game. They try the Primal Fury, Splyce responds. They try the Primal Fury, Splyce responds. They try the Primal Fury, Splyce responds, but Renegades just explode everyone who goes in.
Well, whoever the Queen Ant is here, this Fire Giant call could be the end-all or the mistake of the tournament. Aror going to get pressured again as he was trying to defend this Fire Giant. He will fall down. Baskin is split pushing. Scream on the way. Scream no blink, however, but he may be able to cause a problem here.
Nika's actually teleporting out. He went towards left, and now it's a 4-on-1.
Cherryo going to have to go in zone. iRaffer focused on tanking up the Fire Giant. Scream dancing in the pit as best he can. Ring toss miss from Cherryo. That doesn't slow down Scream. iRaffer gets the kill. Fire Giant is still alive, but multiple members low. It's got to go the way of Renegades.
Man, such a good job of, again, Renegade just works so well as a unit that they're kind of juggling this Fire Giant aggro near perfectly. I mean, they're on it, they're on it, they're on it. Okay, everybody off instantly. Kill this guy. Everyone on it, everyone off. Whoever's making these calls for Renegades is really the puppet master of the whole
really
team, but everyone is working perfectly as a unit.
You can see the goal lead is just starting to stretch a little bit more so. It's been a consistent, slow grade down for Renegades in terms of a gold gain here, but it's starting to really make an impact now, not just in terms of gold, but 8,000 experience.
And the way the Renegades play is so differently than every other team, and I think that's what makes them so hard to prepare for. Look, it's not catching anybody off guard that Dardez is playing a pressure hunter mid. He's playing Anhur, he's playing Ullr. But a lot of teams do that. So why is Renegade so much better at it? Well, iRaffer's aggressiveness is very different than a lot of other supports that try this sort of style. And Cherryo's so willing to just go in there and die for his team anytime he needs to set up the team fight. Funballer's playing things that are very different than most other ADCs at this point in the meta. And so Renegades, you know, a lot of teams are invading reds. A lot of teams are picking Zhong solo. A lot of teams are putting pressure picks in the mid lane. But so few are doing all of them at the same time and then having incredible teamwork on top of that Renegades look near unbeatable in games where they're not doing anything particularly special except rolling people over.
Communication more than anything else is really just showing through. You saw Doug there on the camera highlighting that Ancile in the mid lane for Dardez here. I kind of like it. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of it if you're not going to get engaged on by these mages. But with 4 magical, just 1 silence can make such a big impact if he gets jumped on.
It could even hurt Scream potentially. If Baskin and Scream end up hitting you at the same time, he's trying to mink form you or knock you up with the turtle form, you end up silencing him out too. It's not just for the magicals that get silenced.
And new Aror too, don't forget. Blinking from Raffer though, stun onto Aror. Meanwhile on the backside, Scream engaged on Nika and Funballer, but they're relatively healthy. Baskin in the mix in the backline, but not for long. The worm is already dead. And the grouping from Renegades, this unity around protecting each other is just showing through. Baskin didn't even get his cursed Ankh off.
No, he didn't. In the Ancile proc there, ended up making a big difference for Scream.
Now, though, on the front line, Raffer charging the ultimate to the skies, but where's he going to go? To the back line is the call, but he's going to go alone. The left-hand Phoenix does fall. Splyce under pressure early in game 1. This could be over soon if they're not careful.
Aror goes down quickly to all that CC and damage. Cyclone's still level 18 and healthy, but he's going to need to make plays.
Scream's just going to keep running away and try and buy some time to get the team of Splyce back on the books. But the middle Phoenix is falling. Minions on the left-hand side, and the Renegades are barraging down the mid lane now with a minion wave in tow.
They've got so much sustain too from Funballer's Chang'e. I think game 1's over pre-23 minutes.
It really does look that way. It's early in the morning, but Renegades had their coffee quickly. However, looks like Splyce's respawns have delayed the end for the time being. Renegades, though, aren't falling back completely. Looks like they're just going to rotate round to the right-hand side. Better safe than sorry?
Yes, I suppose so. You've got such a commanding lead at this point. Why throw it away by trying to end the game when you can almost certainly end the game 5 minutes from now or so? I think it's a disciplined call from Renegades.
They'll take this tier 2 tower. And don't forget, towers do reduce the health of the Titan overall as well. Just makes it a little bit easier to kill it if you do commit, or even for the minions to do it for you.
It's just, at this point, what does Splyce do? I mean, there's Auror's level 12. I mean, he's getting hit by a level 20 Naja. Everyone else is going to be level 20 besides Raffer once the next siege begins. Aror might get to 14, maybe. I mean, he just can't get tanky enough.
Yeah, I think the other issue as well, Kumbhakarna in this matchup, the groggy strike, sure, it stops you being knocked up, but you're not really worried too much about knockups from Renegades outside of the updraft.
Right.
It's just such a delayed ability that sets you up to eat so much CC that is very easily confirmed from this Renegades roster.
Splyce trying to recoup some desperately needed gold. I love this ult from Venenu. Lets him know that this isn't free.
Well, as that happened, Raffer blinked in onto CycloneSpin to put the pressure on, and now Aror under pressure prompts the frenzy. The cards applied, the exorcism connects. Aror will get the epic cut off, but Baskin on the backside with Scream does take out the man mountain that's Dardez in the mid lane, and Aegis has been used already by Venenu as Cherryo takes him up in the wind fire wheel.
That was such a sick ult from Cherryo. Really nice shot from him. Scream gonna do what he can to keep distracting, which he's done very well. And Renegades go 1 for 1.
With the blink, will land the sash, and now Scream under pressure again, but luckily enough, it looks like a mantle proc, was that? No, actually just a wing blade with the mobility is gonna get him away after the fact. Renegades don't keep chasing down mid though and looking to end the game. They're gonna take the gold fury on the tail end.
Yeah, 1 for 1 at this point in the game is fine for Splyce. I mean, it does mean that Venenu isn't getting any more farm, which certainly hurts, but Dardez had purchased a red pot right before that fight, thinking it could be a game-ending push. I think it's a wise investment by him, but now he's down 500 gold without a whole lot to show for it.
And now the question is, can Splyce even get back into this game at this stage? Ryan, we've casted a while through this year and through a couple of years now, and I'm kind of looking at it like this is almost an unwinnable position, right?
Yeah, this is a 1%er. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Splyce have about a 1% chance to win, but they had a less than 1%er against E-United at the week 13 or whatever that was, and they won that one. They were further behind in that than they are now.
Well then, if you want anyone to be in this position, if they had to be, maybe you would want Splyce. Baskin doesn't have the World Serpent here, as Aror will check the Fire Giant to see the health bars. Venenu with the early ultimate. That'll actually just disengage Renegades, who aren't feeling overly confident about that. Is that mainly because Scream's down that left-hand side?
Maybe. I'm a little curious about that disengage. It probably is because the split push was coming and they saw Cyclone on the last wave. If you leave Erlang, Shen, and Chronos free to start pushing that, then it would turn into a Phoenix pretty quickly, and that negates some of Renegade's pressure on the enemy Titan. But I don't know. I'm a little surprised Renegades just don't force the Fire Giant. They didn't go Frenzy this game. Raffer went Blink and Shell. He's been starting Blink on the Horus, decides to go Shell instead of the Frenzy, and that could become a little bit problematic. Without it, it's hard to burn the fire.
Nika got knocked up there so we could see over the wall and spot Aror in the jungle. I'm joking, he just misplayed it. It's just a good excuse. And now it's only really Aror trying to defend this fire giant. However, with Cyclone being spotted on this left-hand side, it looks like Renegades might be in the terms to go, go, and try and commit to bringing this down. But Baskin is back on the scene.
No, they aren't doing too much damage to it yet. Baskin, on the other hand, they can do a lot of damage to. He'll get into his ultimate quickly.
He did at least get the double shot onto Funballer and iRaffer. But meanwhile, Cyclone is on that Phoenix line now. He needs the minion wave. Fire Giant is being delayed enough by Splyce here to at least buy time for him maybe to get the Phoenix. But now Auror's in the sky, and on landing, the waxing moon connects. Aror will fall down. And also, you can see Nika did manage to get back to base to defend the split push.
Nicely done by him. It's going to be a Pyromancer instead, at least for the moment. I imagine that Renegades will go to Fire Giant. Now, remember, they don't have a whole lot of DPS in this objective. Even though they do have a traditional Hunter still, Chang'e is just not the other damage dealer you usually have.
CycloneSpin is committing on Nika because he knew he had to screen behind, but Nika preemptively used the ultimate there to get those bonus protections. It won't help him out, unfortunately. He does end up falling down still. But Splyce were really trying to commit down that left-hand side for the Phoenix. You can see there was 4 members there all starting to group up. Nika bought enough time, however, that option is not going to be available.
But still, I mean, you get Fire Giant away from Nika. Both Phoenixes that were down for Splyce are back up. And the gold lead is only down to 12K. Only 12K, I say, but it was worse than that not that long ago. Experience now pretty much irrelevant. Even Venenu got a lot of levels during that last fight. He's level 19 now. It's looking better for Splyce. It's looking better.
What was the real problem then for the composition from Splyce this game? I mean, was it mainly pressure in the lanes just wasn't there?
Partially that.
We talk about the Ullr in the mid lane right up against a Nuwa. Nuwa's not bringing pressure in the early game, is she?
No, but she's not horrible at defending her own buffs. She's not great, but she's not horrible. I think CycloneSpin's decision to go Warlock Staff to make himself weaker in the early game, it's good in the 1v1 and lane up against Funballer, but I think if that's an earlier Pythags piece, they're able to defend those buffs a little bit more effectively. He's just a little bit stronger at that point in the game. At this point, though, I really don't hate the position Splyce is in. Look, Renegades is still favored, but I really think that elongated Fire Giant fight, the kill on Nika, the fact that they stalled so long, got their Phoenixes up, this went from a 1%er to they might be in double digits. They might be at 10%.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
The climb is real, just off defending Fire Giant for so long. Now remember,
yeah, because look at the items for Splyce now. I mean,
Cyclone's
full build. Venenu has 5 out of 6. Scream only needs to finish off his last tier 3, and he just did. He's full build now. It's not that bad.
Well, Renegades with 4 members of the Fire Giant are back on this left-hand Phoenix line. Cherryo did push in the mid lane, and that sash from Cherryo was absolutely max distance, but still hits onto Aror. And meanwhile, Renegades just dance in and out, continuing to resustain. Lotus Crown's online as well for Funballer, so the extra protections are definitely going to help them out with some of these shots.
The only thing is that Baskin needs to find a way to be a bit more effective in this game. His early rotation was great, but ever since then, he's really just been target practice for the Renegades.
Splyce don't end up defending that left-hand Phoenix at all, really, after the initial skirmish around that objective. Cherryo went for the sash there against Baskin, just off the mark. The ring toss clears the wave out, and Renegades now just have to wait for the next minion wave. Or do they? They're just going to push on in.
They've got so much sustain, I don't think they need to worry.
Into the backline goes Aror. Sash from Cherryo delays the opportunity there. Ultimate out from Venenu for damage more than anything else, but you can just see how little that really did to this Renegades roster, who haven't moved a muscle off this Phoenix line.
There's just too much sustain and not enough anti-heal, I don't think, from Splyce.
Blink in from Cherryo, and there's an ult off the mark from him. He will be heavily punished by CycloneSpin. And you know what? 10% might have just got up an extra percent with that death. Nika blinked in, but got hit by the World Serpent from Baskin too. Nika's ultimate did pretty good damage, but not enough to slow down Splyce, who are now on the aggression.
And it's a level 20 Chronos running them down right now. Nika has to try and get away. That mantle proc was huge.
Oh, big updraft from iRaffer there to knock up Scream and delay him from keeping the aggression going. Aror and Splyce fall back, realizing they don't have anything else to follow suit with. And Renegades, they're not giving up just yet. The sustains their Funballer, and Dardez still full health. And the Fire Giant ticking away for that regeneration.
And Nika gets to teleport back in. And all this time, Renegade's Fire Wave is starting to push down that left-hand side. Eventually, they still decide it's not quite enough for them to feel comfortable. And they'll back it up and try and get themselves another Primal Fury. And this is actually a pretty relevant Fury at this point in the game. Oni is usually the one you want when you're really ahead because it lets you spread the map. But I think with Fire Giant falling off in 20 seconds, this is the exact Fury I'd want. for Renegades. They already had one Primal Fury in the bank.
Yep.
Now they're doing an extra, what, 14% damage
And
to the
taking less
objective,
damage.
and taking 14% less. And we saw how long they wanted to juggle that Fire Giant. That makes it that much easier for them to either execute the burst or keep resetting and resetting on it because they're taking the less damage.
And one of the other things about the Enhanced Fire Giant is at 30 minutes these days, so it's the perfect window to go back and take that one for themselves if they so do. You said, you know, Splyce had climbed to 10% from the 1% chance there. The fact that the second Fire Giant, Renegades only got a weakened left-hand Phoenix.
Right.
That's a really big boot.
Yeah, I think that the weakness of this Renegades comp is beginning to show, and that's that it doesn't siege particularly well. I mean, Ullr is still Ullr in the late game. He can do tower damage, but it's hard for him to do it safely because he has to switch into bow stance to do it from range. That means he doesn't get a chance to jump away very quickly, and that's a huge weakness. Chang'e in the late game is great in these jungle brawls, not so great in lane. I mean, how does Funballer ever poke the opposition from melee range?
I think the only thing I'm worried about if I'm Renegades now is this mysterious fog, because the later this game goes, the more people can get sneaky around that ability, hide inside it, and maybe, just maybe, get to the backline without people recognizing it.
Cherryo blinks in, finds a sash, Cyclone no beads.
And into the sky he goes. Baskin gonna ult early to try and help out his hunter, but Cyclone's already dead. Nika credited with a kill. World Serpent comes through, but Scream did get to Dardez, so it's a 1-for-1 so far.
Aror's gonna fall though. I mean, it's only a matter of time. The dot damage is good, and Zhong can double auto him down. Scream's gonna be next. It looks like Cherryo should have that one under wraps.
Yeah, Scream just trying to buy as much time as possible. The pings on the left-hand side, you saw that, the damage on the Titan here. But meanwhile, Venenu trying to deal with 3 members of Renegades. Baskin has to abandon all hope of keeping his mid laner alive, and Renegades may just barrel down towards the Titan.
That was the only way it felt like Renegades was going to end this cleanly. It's getting the kill on the CycloneSpin early on. He had 15 seconds left on the beads. Cherryo with a blink, max range sash right past this big Jormungandr model sets Renegades up for a perfect win.
And Renegades will take it 1-0 so far in this best of 5. I am excited about the next pick and ban phase already, because that was fireworks from minute 1.
And really a lot of credit to the rest of Renegades as well. Cherryo makes an insane individual mechanical play in order to get that kill on the Cyclone. But remember, he still had Aegis, he still had a rewind, but the execution of the CC chain once he hit the ground was really, really solid. The rest of Splyce needs to be surging forward there to try and protect CycloneSpin. Grouping up around him does nothing for when he hits the ground. You need to make sure Funballer doesn't get the ultimate off. You need to try and CC Dardez so he can't use that combo from a distance, and Splyce just wasn't able to do it.
It really felt like both teams kind of got what they wanted for the most part in picks and bans.
Sure.
Just a couple of banner ways that we kind of expected. Let's find out what the desk has to say about that first game.
Any other team in the world, that game is over at 21 minutes when Renegades push down the middle lane. Splyce, an incredible team in their own right, still fall down to iRaffer and the boys. Totally, you were kind of excited at the last pick.
The winions at the end of the game there. But already, yeah, Renegades, they start out very strong by defending their blue buff. Splyce came out with a game plan of trying to get Baskin ahead, relying heavily on that solo lane, but a 4-man rotation. Dardez getting the first blood, rushing the Transcendence as a result. From there, Renegades were able to transition into red buff invades for themselves, but it all comes back from defending.
I mean, this is the first one right here. Big 4-man rotation, as you said. And again, you know, I always bring it back to the teams that iRaffer has previously played on, and this is something that you see with all of these teams, is the fact that Renegades, just like iRaffer's old team, seem to be connected by some sort of string. The buddy system. You are never out of rotation ability from the rest of your teammates, even at that moment in the game. 2 kills to start it off. I mean, that's how Renegades drew it up.
And honestly, even between invading the red buff as a result, there was a time around 7 minutes when Renegades invaded the red. They get a 4-for-1 after a very long 45-second fight. Baskin rotating, at least finding 1 kill in response. But it wasn't until 10 minutes after the fact when Renegades really started flexing their lead at that Gold Fury, when they made these rotations happen. Even though Splyce were fully aware of it, like if you can see here, Splyce are all in position. They know that this is happening. We're even seeing the ultimate coming through from the new op. But look at the rotation here from CycloneSpin. He's going to have to force to disengage. He's going to get a rewind off. But the problem is, his rewind puts him in the thick of things, right in the middle of everybody after the fact. Trying to run away, too little too late. Venenu is trying to run away. He's going to get picked off, and for that 3 for nothing as a result, everyone is going towards the Fire Giant, and this is where the game gets out of control for Renegades.
Yeah, it was a fantastic team fight and kind of great breakdown there, Anatoly, of showing which ways that Renegades were able to show their stuff. On the second page of this, I wanted to bring up some of the numbers that we saw here. Renegades and Splyce. So if you look at the damage numbers, a lot of them are kind of similar. It's not that Renegades were able to completely out-damage. Look at Scream versus Cherryo. You know, a little bit more from Dardez for short, 10K. I guess that's a lot, a bit more. 1,000 less than CycloneSpin for Funball, but 18-2 in the healing. So it's very similar amounts of damage across the board from Renegades and Splyce, but having that Chang'e in that carry role brings both damage and the healing, and it was a little bit of both that made that exciting. It was funny because I was talking about, with respects to the solo lane, I got cut off by the actual game, how dare they. But I was talking about how Chang'e in the solo lane, solo is not pure tank right now. It's kind of this hybrid.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see Chang'e over there in the solo lane. She can do it from the carry role too.
But the problem was Funballer was getting ganked from Scream in the early game, so it was a lot of credit to Renegades flexing that Chang'e, but also picking the Horus, because collectively between the two of them, getting 24,000 healing is what allowed them to continue the sieging, even after losing Scream in that middle Phoenix. After a great beads from CycloneSpin to prevent that ultimate, it was still pressure and more pressure from Renegades, and I'm expecting Splyce to maybe consider some healing of their own.
Well, this time around, Splyce are going to ban out the Lotus Prince. First ban last time was Dardez's Anhur. So Splyce right now trying to figure out if they want to continue to try and ban out some of the meta stuff or just focus on what makes Renegades tick. That Naja is very important for what Renegades want to do. Not only is it Cherryo's kind of go-to character, but it fits both of his play styles. As I said, it's both a setup man and a hard carry. And so by giving that to Cherryo, you enable kind of two different play styles.
And the way he built the Naja was very utility focused. The runic shield, the Anhur trying to focus out the mages of the Chronos, of the Nuon, and then the movement speed, Shield of Regrowth, Winged Blade. No one was catching out Cherryo.
I love the Anhur specifically against the Nuwa. She's a combo-oriented character. You jump on her, drops the minions, she's silenced, can't break them. That's a really big deal there. So watching that change was rather nice. Jormungandr ban here for Splyce here. What I think out of the Jormungandr is realistically sieging, either defending against the Jorm or using him offensively. You hit that ultimate, and the enemy has to run away. There's nothing you can really do. So I like Splyce's bans here because they're not just, well, this character was tough to deal with. They're gameplay styles. They're orientations of how Renegades want to approach. And so with that, you're kind of grabbing a lot with two bans.
And Splyce is leaving open the Merlin, the Chronos, and the Muzen comp. Renegades with a tough decision to make. Do they leave all three, or do they ban away one and try to pick up the other? I wouldn't be surprised if they leave all three open. I could see a world where Splyce first pick the Muzen comp, and then Renegades get double magical there between Chronos and Merlin.
I think you leave Merlin up. All right, Renegades don't think that. Don't think that at all. The reason I go Merlin, Muzen comp would be nice. The reason I say you leave Merlin up is because Venenu, and you know, just objectively, no slight, Venenu is probably the weakest member of this Splyce team, and I say that knowing he's very strong. And he plays his carries, hunters, better than the mages, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think you kind of can give him the Merlin and take the Muzen comp. Or ban the Muzen comp, rather.
I agree. I think that a Muzen comp is one of the strongest mid gods you can run in this current Season 6 meta. Very difficult to really out-pressure a Muzen comp, but Renegades, they know what they signed up for by leaving the Muzen comp open. If you're Dardez, you're looking for an easier matchup, and for him, it's probably gonna be the Anhur.
And when it comes down to the characters that Renegades like to play, yes, I think you take the Anhur here, no question, for Dardez. When I look at Cherryo, you're thinking of playing Bakasura, you're thinking of playing Kali, you're thinking of playing these basic attack-oriented characters that a Muzen comp has trouble getting away from. So Renegades kind of setting the table for themselves. Anhur and Chronos, a Renegades draft as old as the team themselves. Which, honestly, isn't that old. These guys came together this year, so my turn of phrase isn't exactly apropos. But Anhur and Chronos is something this team certainly likes to play.
Another old pick bringing back into fruition is the Vamana coming out for Baskin. Doubt that's going to go into the jungle position, even though Scream has played it in yesteryear's time. But Something we haven't seen from Splyce last game was the Hercules, because it was banned after or during the secondary phase. Splyce got everything they wanted in the first phase, the Jormungandr, the Erlang Shen, the Chronos, but the support from the Kumbhakarna just didn't bring it to me. I felt like Aror got shut down early. He didn't have that many good blink plays that we were expecting out of him. He did have that one great play, though, where he disrupted the escape from To the Skies with the epic uppercut. Though that was pretty.
That was definitely a little bit of fun there. A different look, though, for Splyce, as they have yet to grab their support player just yet. Baskin, as you mentioned, on the Vamana earlier in the tournament. I mean, watching Vamana zone 3, 4 different players at the same time, that's just what Baskin does.
You know what?
What's that?
I wouldn't be surprised if CycloneSpin plays Vamana. Just because. And then have Baskin play Morrigan or something. In fact, it's probably Morrigan in the long lane, actually.
That's what I'm thinking as well. I think we're going to see Morrigan carry. Renegades, however, grabbing the Geb. Safe selection. iRaffer can save his teammates whenever they get in trouble. iRaffer can ult and save himself whenever he gets in trouble, which is something that he does quite often. Renegades now up 1-0, looking towards the secondary ban phase.
Renegades were struggling against PK when there was the Chronos and the Aphrodite that Pittsburgh Knights ran, or sorry, that PK ran that one time, and as a result, they're trying to find ways to keep the Chronos alive for Funballer. I'm expecting a lot of survivability out of him between the Pythax piece and receiving these Geb shields, but Renegades have been revealing a very consistent strategy thus far in MSI. It's the late hyper carry gods out of Cherryo, and that's why we're seeing the Kali ban.
Kali and Daji. Cherryo's Daji has been banned more than anything else. Regular season, mid-season invitational. Cherryo's Daji is very similar to the Naja in the sense that it's going to be a hard carry, but also a dedicated beads burner, a guaranteed setup character. And so that's really the identity there in Splyce. Ban it out. Like I said, most teams will ban out the Daji versus Cherryo for sure. Renegades grab the Erlang Shen, though, and that's been the go-to selection for Scream.
And importantly, to deny Scream this Erlang Shen for Renegades, because they want to make sure Cherryo is feeling very comfortable, and more importantly, banning away the RDO before picking the Erlang Shen, not wanting to deal with the cripple. I thought it might have been a Hercules ban yet again from game number 1, but Splyce had other intentions.
Cabrakan and Thor. Cabrakan, a pick out of... if there are 2 players to play Cabrakan in the game, Cherryo and Aror.
Well, CycloneSpin played it a lot in Season 2 as well.
Thor as well. Thor solo or Vamana solo are both options for Splyce, but I think Scream definitely takes the Thor.
Yes.
Cabrakan likely goes into the hands of the support. Renegades had banned out the RDO, which would make this King Arthur selection all well and good, and it will be. So the King will show up. Arthur, Shen in the jungle, Chronos, Geb dual lane, Anhur in the middle lane. Renegades certainly have a composition that they're comfortable with. Splyce, on the other hand, the Thor and the Cabrakan. AMC, Vamana, and the Morrigan, we've been seeing a lot. The Thor, a little bit flavor, and Cabrakan, a god kind of out of nowhere, but works well against this competition.
That's right. You want to be able to burst down the Chronos. You want to limit his escapes between double walls of the Thor and the Cabrakan. Scream played the Thor up against Splyce, and I believe in game number 3 when Splyce won that game. And this global pressure is important to try to focus out Funballer. It was a difficult task to survive for Funballer's Chang'e in game number 1. Might be even more difficult now when you got global pressure to worry about.
Certainly would be interesting here, but Renegades, it's so hard to look at this Anhur for Dardez and say it's going to be a bad look, man. I don't know how Splyce intend to deal with it. They've drafted to deal with the Shen. They've drafted to deal with some of the other options, but I think Anhur just might be too much of an issue.
It's the long-range poke that I think Splyce are relying on with Scream's Thor, because you don't want to get too close to the Anhur or even the Chronos. So I think that the wall, the hammer stun, the follow-up from Morrigan, the Dark Omen being thrown away is how they're going to start to play it. Renegades without healing, right, relying on Geb shield instead. You can only shield one target at a time, so Renegade's going to have to be very conservative about when they throw that out.
Vamana here in the hands of Baskin. What are you expecting as far as the solo lane matchup is concerned? Vamana, King Arthur, this is pretty much just guys that are going to slap each other in lane and transition into the mid fight.
It's going to depend on who's feeling more frisky. who's going to challenge the other more, and that comes down to the 2v2 matchup of support and soul lane, and then it's also going to come down to if either one of those teams with that advantage is going to try to flex to a blue buff invade, because Splyce tried to flex that at 1 minute 40 in game number 1, got heavily rotated on, a great 4-man rotation to defend the blue buff. I think since that point, Renegades got that confidence boost to carry the rest of the game.
That's very true. You know, really important stuff there for game number 1. Game number 2, just as important. Splyce versus Renegades, jumping on in.
Thanks so much, Analyst Desk. And, well, the compositions have evolved a little bit more, as we expect in this best of 5. Get to see a little bit out of Dardez on the Anhur once more. Might as well in the finals, right?
Exactly. That's if it ain't broke through the first few days, why fix it when it comes to the finals?
I feel like a lot of these people have got classic picks for themselves in this game. I feel Nika's King Arthur has been potent throughout the year.
100%.
Baskin on his Vamana. Scream with the old Thor throwback as well. And not only that, Aror and CycloneSpin playing Cabrakan and the Morrigan. I'm down for this matchup.
Yeah, Aurora Cyclone playing off meta stuff, who would have guessed? I mean, that's kind of the way it's been.
Funballer, Chronos or Freya.
Yep, exactly. This is definitely strength versus strength here, and I think that if Renegades are going to try the same thing of consistent red buff invades, they may struggle a little bit more this time around. Really just the difference between Geb and Horus is a huge difference with your potency on those sorts of invades. Venenu's playing AMC this time. That's so much better at skirmishing in the early stages. And I really want to see Aurora and Ven be able to play aggressive and punish this Dardez on her.
Now, I do expect to see Splyce look aggression towards the right-hand side one more time with Cabrakan and Vamana here up against their King Arthur and maybe a Geb. I don't think we're going to see too much defense on the right-hand side from Renegades this game.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, Renegades should be able to kind of get it rolling kind of their own volition. As look at what iRaffer is doing. Yeah. This is something that he's done before as well, where he actually splits speed with Cherryo and then goes right to red to work on it. Basically what Scream is exactly doing for Venenu, iRaffer is doing for Dardez, but this frees up Cherryo to come to this right-hand side blue and help out.
And Cherryo a little bit better at defending than a Geb at the buff too, so this makes a lot of potent sense here. The minis have been taken down by the blue of Renegades so far, and it was Renegades that got them, Cherryo mainly. And Nika just showing presence enough here. Aurora wants to go in for the steal if he can. He's just got to be careful about cooldowns more than anything else.
He's just wasting time right now. Great secure, and now Aurora might actually be in a little bit of trouble.
Concern. And now he's going to get punished heavily for it. The level 2 is dinged. Renegades get first blood, and that was Aurora just getting caught in an awkward position.
And that's really because of the start that Renegades do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Nika wouldn't have hit 2 because he would have been sharing the wave with iRaffer, but because iRaffer isn't there, Nika hits level 2, that's an extra button that he gets, really an extra 2 buttons that he gets to press because he's King Arthur. Cherryo wouldn't have hit level 2 potentially. That is a start that no other team is doing right now, but one that you can see how effective it is. Great secure by Renegades and understanding that as soon as if we get this blue, Aurora's dead.
It's all about the level 2, and it has been in SMITE for quite a considerable amount of time as well through the metas. Whoever gets that level 2 first can really swing it. We saw it in the duo lane last season. Now this season it's about trying to get that jungler maybe to level 2, the solo laner to 2, just a fraction of a second ahead, and it's making an impact because of it.
And now Aurora certainly behind, not too concerned. I mean, iRaffer's gonna hit level 3 right away, so he's a full level about right now, but it's Cabrakan.
I was going to say, Cabrakan just kind of lean a little bit, though, towards the Ares style, the Ymir style of if you get behind, it's not as useful. The walls are definitely impactful, but you just can't stay alive long enough to really make an impact, I feel.
Right, you can't tremor as long.
Exactly,
It's kind of the difference maker, but most of the time, by the time you're tremoring, someone's either dead or they aren't, so you kind of want to, as long as you're getting your 1 and 2 off, you're usually okay, I think.
Very excited to see how Dardez does with this Anhur again this game. He's had a fantastic season on it, to be fair, and he's looked so potent. He's so patient with his abilities. You were mentioned about the Desert Furies and how he's not scared to throw those out for damage.
Right, and that's the real difference maker, I think, for him. I'm just convinced, though, Hinu Man, that some team has got to be doing a better job of punishing Anhur in the early game. I mean, there's a reason Anhur doesn't get played in duo very often, and he's more susceptible in mid a lot of the time. As long as you're not getting him in counterpick situations against these really immobile mages, that's where he can really shine.
Is it because he's just got more support around him in the mid lane, because he's got the potential of a support player or a jungler being around to support in those situations?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt him, for sure, but look, I just don't think there's any way that Anhur is the best mid laner in the game right
Is it
now.
just Dardez that's the best mid laner in the game? Is that the reason?
Maybe. He looks like it when he's playing Anhur a lot of the time, but I really think that teams can really be jumping on him a little bit earlier. It just seems unlikely to me that this is uncounterable. That's all I think.
Cherryo invaded back Harpies, didn't get them all that time. The big one did go the way of Splyce, but the buff on the right-hand side will go to Renegades as it's stripped away from them. Aror still trying to get aggressive on Cherryo, finds the stun. However, Nika around the back at level 5 will use the ultimate. Now Aror and Baskin have to escape. Aror still being chased down, however, though, as Nika spins to win. iRaffer with a beautiful blink to body block Baskin into a wall, and also make sure he knocks up Aror to get Cherryo credit for a second kill.
Man, Aror just having a bit of a tough one so far. The Kumbhakarna game didn't go super well, though I don't think that was a main problem for Splyce. But to take 2 deaths this early on, give Cherryo and Nika both leads in their respective roles is really the big thing. I mean, sure, it feels bad that he's falling behind, but that's usually not too much of the problem for Aror. It's when you're giving up golden experience to guys like Nika and Cherryo on 2 of their premier gods, and now you have to make sure you're splitting a little bit more. He split speed with Scream. Now Scream doesn't hit level 5. He's got to split his backs with him. I mean, now it's not just Aror who's going to be behind.
I just feel that sometimes the Renegade, I think it's maybe around iRaffer, but whenever aggressive support players come up against iRaffer, they tend to struggle a little bit more because I think iRaffer just knows what to expect out of those aggressive supports, and then they get answered back and punished. Trix had the same issue yesterday.
He did, but Dignitas's issues weren't just that.
Sure.
And that's the big thing. But you're right, I think it's a well-made observation that a lot of these supports are struggling against the Renegades. But I really think that's mostly due to the way that Cherryo likes to play the game. He's very much a setup guy for Funballer and for Dardez, and usually picks very CC-heavy characters. And CC is kind of, I think, miscategorized a lot of the time in competitive Smite. A lot of times it's like, oh, well, how will the carries ever have beads? And that's usually more of a problem in the mid to late game. For the majority of the game, even from early to mid to late, CC kills supports more than anything else.
Wall onto Cherryo, and the spin from Scream there. Will be a different spin after this mid-season. Scream, though, has to use the beads to escape Cherryo's ultimate. Cherryo not done with the chase, though. Aror will try and slow it down with a slap to the back of the head. But the King's Guard isn't done yet. He wants these back Harpies.
No fear, though. I mean, just sits there and auto-attacks him down anyways. Nika does need to reset blue. I think that's the big thing. But plenty of information here that Scream, it was incoming with that ultimate.
iRaffer relatively low on mana, not low enough to not want to disengage from this, though, as Nika and Cherryo will march on for the blue buff invade. Scream has to jump to his hammer to escape Cherryo, who did land the pin, and another successful buff invade from Renegades.
Remember when Erlang pin crippled?
Yes.
Dark days. Dark days indeed. That would have been a tough one for Scream, but luckily we were past that.
Since then, Erlang has had quite a few nerfs overall, but still potent, still played in the Pro League. Just shows how viable some of these characters really still are.
Like I said, CC is real good at killing supports and carries, but mostly supports. But when you have as much of it as Erlang has and enough damage to boot, you're going to get picked a lot in a lot of different roles. Even Meerkat played it mid this tournament and beat Rival with it.
It's never upset when you've got a pocket Geb there as well, just in case you do get under pressure too.
Exactly. Certainly does not hurt.
Well, just the 2 deaths to Aror so far. He is level 5, just a level behind iRaffer. As we said, though, the support's been a level 2 down, isn't doom and gloom overall. At least he's got his ultimate online, which is an important task to have for him. Those walls can make an impact here, I feel, as this game goes on.
Yes, but who they really trying to wall off? Cherryo is the main one that I see, but Funballer has Rewind, Dardez has Elite.
I was kind of looking at it as like an isolation tool of the aggression that Renegades really like to throw out there. You can kind of isolate some of the teammates from getting back to the team or reinforcements coming through and funneling in.
That can be the case, but Renegades, more often than not, kind of deathball. They like to group up quite a bit and really force fights and be aggressive together. And so maybe that means you can get a huge cage off, but at the same time, it's not Odin cage. They can just walk at you still when that's the case. The Cabrakan pick, I think, was more motivated by the Erlang pin, making him root immune, and the ability to just defend buffs and fight a little bit earlier on. I think those are the main reasons we saw the Cabrakan pick, and I just don't know it'll work.
Cyclone fans listed on Funballer. Doesn't have any follow-up damage, though, as he'd already cleared the wave. And Funballer didn't panic there. There was no beads usage. Ultimate out from Scream, though. Will connect with Cherryo. The wall was just a fraction to the left too far. And Cherryo sidesteps, turns it around as Nika was right alongside him. Scream knew where he was going, but he just didn't have the ability to confirm the damage.
And Baskin should have been communicating that Nika can rotate and be on the way. We know where he is. Just a bad decision by Scream to try and all in the combo. If you dunk there, start spinning, then you toss the hammer. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just get beads, but he didn't even. I mean, he got those, but got
off a
insta-kill.
pin.
Yeah.
Off a pin, we got the beads off of Venenu there too in that mid lane. Renegades starting to find more favor as this one continues. Splyce looking a little bit discombobulated early on again.
Decision making has been bad for Splyce, and that's the big thing. That'll hurt you against a team like Renegades, where they're going to be playing aggressively anyways.
Knock-up does connect onto Scream, and his beads are used again at the tail end there. It's just Cherryo with a pin and a pillow was enough, really, to make him worry about his safety in there.
And in the beads off the pin from Venenu felt a little bit weird, as Cherry's actually losing this trade pretty heavily. Baskin shouldn't be able to get the kill, but Dardez sure can.
Well, there's no beads on the B in the mid lane. That's how you can try and punish him down there. Aror on low health and walk away. Cherryo did escape Baskin, who used his ultimate to try and do a bit more chasing, but it looks like more of a bait situation now as Baskin has been punished. He's going to try and juke out and dash back to lane. Relatively safe for the most part, as it is a Vamana after all.
And like I was about to say, Venenu kind of had to use beads in mid because of Dardez's ability to use that Desert's Fury for insane damage early on, and that's what he kind of... Panic beads is probably a little bit too strong a word, but he really over-respects the damage that Dardez could have done there. And to be honest, he may have been able to kill him from 70% health if he was perfectly accurate. So I don't even fault Venenu too much for using those in that spot, but it means that he's a completely free kill just a minute later.
Let's have a little quick look back at the last kill then that we just saw. We didn't see in the mid lane on for Dardez here. How did this all go down? We know Venenu didn't have beats
the
here.
back bait, huh?
The back bait from iRaffer into a blink ultimate knock-up. Yeah, I mean, Dardez is good and all, right? But if he's that much CC, you don't really need much help.
No, that was iRaffer, for sure. No doubt about that.
Cheeky back bait comes into play. Aror, in a bit of a tricky spot there as the wall and the pillar nearly caused a problem, but in the sky, Scream now looking for a target. iRaffer will be just that, trying to buy as much time as possible as Cherryo gets to the back line of Venenu and Dardez gets the kill with a Desert Fury. iRaffer bought enough time to at least make it a 1-for-1. Aror credited with a kill onto iRaffer, but can any more members of Splyce survive?
Really nice wall there from Scream. Make sure that Cherryo can't try and knock up Aror. 1-for-1 support for mid laner, but iRaffer's worth more gold than Venenu is at this point.
I was going to say as well, Dardez did just go back to base and finish off that Transcendence too, so there's a small power spike just by completing that item in the first place, and now the damage is going to get a little bit worse. Cyclone trying to defend this red buff against Cherryo and Dardez. Even Funballer coming in the mix, but Cyclone still trying to stand here and prevent it being stolen away. Not this time, friend.
Like I was saying all yesterday during the dig set, I think this Anhur pick is so good against Dignitas because Heroin loves to play Opwash Zeus gods like that. Funballer really wants to get aggressive right here. CycloneSpin didn't get the transform off in time, has to use the Aegis.
And he's invisible for now, but the pin from Cherryo did connect, and the blinking from iRaffer helps out the fray with the knock-up onto Scream. Auror's there, 2 and 3 members down from Splyce already. Renegades are cleaning house.
Man, they are crushing them right now. I can't even get a point about how the AMC is the same as an immobile mage, and so Venenu's kind of picking right into it, and they get a huge lead in mid. Dardez is up 2 levels, iRaffer's up a level on Venenu, and then they get one little window, start the buff invade. Cyclone gets interrupted during the pre-fire of Changeling, because Funballer is just playing so aggressively because he knows that iRaffer is doing relevant damage. I mean, he's a higher level than Scream even at this point.
I mean, Gebs in the early game, people underestimate how much damage a Shockwave can do. Shockwave, at max range, the damage falls off, but at close range on Shockwave, the damage is really, really potent is the best way to put it.
370 at max rank is just insane for base damage.
But he's not even got that maxed right. It's actually the shield he's maxed there, and early game shields, you can use it for cleansing of CC, but the better players will sometimes use it just to prevent damage.
Yes, and I think that for you Geb players out there, it's kind of a question of what the enemy team's composition is. If you're only using your shield because it's a CC-heavy comp, and that's why you picked the Geb, and you're really using it as CC cleanse, I think usually maxing the 2 is better. But if it's just outright damage you're going to need to immune, think Vamana stomping on you, where you just need actual HP to try and buy you the window to get out of danger, then maxing the shield is better. And I agree with iRaffer's assessment that that's a little bit better in this game. Thor spin, Vamana all over you. The CC cleanse is going to be good no matter what, sure, but there are some abilities that you really wish you could outright negate.
wall from Scream does hit iRaffer there, but iRaffer's 15 seconds away from his blink being up again, and Cataclysm is online. Renegade's looking for the red buff, but Aror goes to the backline himself with a blink towards Dardez. Dardez returns the damage nastily though, and Aror has to run away. Meanwhile, Funballer might be able to pick up the tail end of that kill, and he will do so. But at the same time, Cherryo got a kill onto CycloneSpin.
Nice wall again. Funballer may have to use Rewind here, but he's level 15, looking pretty strong. He'll use it just for the extra HP because Nika's going in.
And he's looking for Venenu one more time. Funballer coming in on the backside as well, knowing Nika's second up the tower. And Cherryo picks up Scream and was trying to help out his teammates of Splyce. Baskin has to run, no ultimate available. Renegades could even look for a, well, I was going to say a Fury, but that's already been taken. That tier 1 tower, a Pyro maybe?
Maybe. I wonder if they could do Fire. I mean, Auror's, probably not. Yeah, I don't think Fire is the right call. Pyromancer is certainly on the cards.
I think if they had ults, they could maybe look at that Fire Giant.
Maybe, yeah. If Desert's Fury does pretty decent damage. Not great damage, but decent enough. I think it's the fact that their health bars are all about half HP. Fire Giant's going to spread that damage out pretty quickly, and even though Baskin doesn't have TP, he's Talaria Vamana, so he's moving at Mach speed coming out of base. You just don't have the time.
I'm still not overly worried for Splyce, though. I mean, maybe in this game I am particularly, but not in the finals just yet. These two have definitely scrimmed a lot before. Renegades have got a huge lead here, and Splyce still have chances to answer back in this series with how it stands now, but they've got to make adjustments soon, and I'm just a little bit worried about the early game, and they're trying to maybe make too many plays. Aror looks very animated on the screen right now with how this is going.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, right now, I think that Splyce's greatest strength is their side lanes. Their side lanes have been playing so well. Renegade's greatest strength is their mid lane. Dardez has really been playing so well during all of MSI. And so those two strengths, usually you would think, well, we have two side lanes as our strength and only one mid lane, so normally you would think that favors Splyce. But the meta is so much centered around red buff invades and supports being in mid that iRaffer got so far ahead that I think that this meta is just favoring them.
Keep an eye on Cherryo. He's already got been involved in 9 kills so far this game, but he's having a great game on this Erlang Shen so far as they look to invade the red buff of Splyce one more time. Scream's there to try and help out CycloneSpin secure, and they'll do so this time. Double tap didn't connect with Cherryo there. Like the idea behind it, though. There's Nika and Baskin dueling over back. Hobby's on the right-hand side. Ever since like the very first minute or two of the game, right, I just feel like I'm talking about Renegades invading Splyce, and at the start it's Splyce invading Renegades that sets it all off.
It has been a problem, no doubt about it, up until this point. And I really don't know where Splyce goes from here in this game. It was a good attempt there in that last defense. Scream actually ulted on a Funballer knowing he had no relics, but they still couldn't really get the job done. Oh, he did have beads actually, it looks like, because he just used them. So it looks like he was able to get that beads off and able to get out of danger in that moment. It was a good idea to try and get Funballer dead because he's worth quite a bit of gold at this point. 2-0 and 5, level 17, 2 levels up on CycloneSpin. You're really looking for this pick to do some work in the Morrigan.
Well, we saw Nika proxying away from the right-hand side, and Baskin tried to do the same thing, but Cherryo's here. And Cherryo may be a little bit disrespectful here with this Baskin. Ult for ult exchange, shield over the wall will make sure Cherryo's healthy. And now Baskin realizes he's in a world of trouble here. Where's the best escape route? He's not going to get a chance to look for one. Arthur will show him Excalibur, and Baskin will not like the result.
It's the product of trying to get something started, right? Where maybe if I proxy this wave, could rotate a little bit earlier on, I can try and help the squad. Just ends up getting Baskin caught, and now that's basically worst case scenario because Baskin was really the only one still treading water for Splyce at this point, and it's right before the Primal Fury spawns.
You saw Splyce on the left-hand side too, had 3 members there, Scream, Aror, and Cyclone. We're all dancing around this left-hand side. Looked like they were trying to get a jungle pick if possible on a rotation, but the pressure was relieved already before a Renegades member turned up, and Renegades now gonna start up the Primal Fury here. 4 members on the way. Venenu rotating in from mid lane, but Cherryo blinks in on Venenu at the same time. Aror looking to try and defend the buff of the Fury. That won't go that way either. Aror under pressure. He should end up falling down here unless his jukes can save him.
Great attempt. Bought some extra time, but still not enough. Scream has to use the beads, and iRaffer right there, right on time with the Cataclysm.
And the CC chain, the pin, the beads wears off, the knock up after the beads, then the Cataclysm. There was no escape for Thor. And Renegades, after taking the Fury, now looking for more in this middle lane. They might even be able to find another kill if Splyce aren't careful.
Baskin coming around the back. iRaffer's down to about half HP. He's getting a little bit lower, but Baskin immediately has to ult because of all this damage, and I still think he might die.
Has got all the CycloneSpin on the left-hand side. CycloneSpin turning into the Erlang Shen. It'll give him some extra itemization to help him out here, but when he turns back, where's he gonna run? Straight into a pin, revealed and deleted once more by Dardez. They can't take that tier 2 tower just yet, Renegades. We've still got a tier 1 to deal with on the left-hand side.
That won't take them too long, though. They've got a level 19 Chronos and a level 17 Anhur. The level disparity continues to grow in the mid support. I mean, even in the jungle. I mean, you've got 4 levels between your mid and jungle on both sides.
Cherryo just trying to buy time here for his team to take a tier 2 tower. They're actually backdooring that tier 2 tower. Still Cherryo under pressure. Scream telegraphed the ultimate, but the ultimate from Aror slowed it down. Scream will at least get the kill on Cherryo. It took 4 members of Splyce to do so, but they lose a tier 2 while that was all happening. Dardez, though, lazy back in.
That could be a real problem for him. He's got relics, has to use the Aegis right away. Jumps up, iRaffer's here, but look at Baskin's rotation.
And look at Scream getting impaled too, so there's a bit more zone created for Dardez here, who was having a bit of fun. Aror still diving in, and a great shield from iRaffer gives him a bit more CC protection. Dardez still alive.
Oh, no.
Scream meanwhile being pinned on the back and impaled from Dardez. Stops Aror in his tracks again, and now Splyce are overextended.
Baskin should be able to chase him down here. Finally gets him with the sneeze, but now Baskin has sacrificed his life. It's worth it for him, I think, but I imagine he's not going to make it out.
Baskin still, I think Baskin will be fine. Unless the tower does more damage than they bargain for here. With a breastplate of Valor, he should be okay. Funballer, though, he wants to get on the chase himself. Not got the zoomies available anymore. I'd rather go for Pyro here, Funballer, if I'm you.
Yeah, but that's less cool. It's not killing Baskin, so you got to keep it going. Good call. He was fine. Great slow from him. Saved his life, but really see the damage output already coming from Funballer.
11,000 gold lead for Renegades as we hit the 20-minute mark. 15,000 experience, I should say. Excuse me. Renegades dominant again, and right from the beginning of the game, it was that very first blood onto Aurora, and from that moment on, Renegades led.
Yeah, just and then it was bad decision making from Scream to try and go in on a fight on his back camps. Ends up getting him killed, sets him even further behind. This mid lane AMC has not worked at all for Splyce. I agreed with the idea. Get something that gives you more pressure. We can defend Reds, but Renegades, instead of taking fights on Reds, just wait around until Venenu's vulnerable. They kill him, and then they take the red for free right after that.
iRaffer and Dardez trying to get in for the buff. Aror blinks in, looks for a stun on Dardez, and shield straight away from iRaffer to prevent that option. iRaffer under pressure though, and Scream dunks it on Dardez. Dardez deleted by CycloneSpin. Scream trying to get away, but Baskin tanking up the tower prevents a lot of the damage. Aror on the backside trying to deal with Nika and keep him busy with the tremors as Baskin gets out of the tower range. 1 kill for Splyce, but that's all they can find for now.
Much needed, though. Dardez doesn't use the ultimate for the CC immunity. Don't think it would have saved him anyways because of Baskin's pathing behind the tier 1 tower. Good identification that his relics were still down, and he's a little bit too far forward. And Splyce needed that, and they need it 5 or 6 more times at this rate.
I'm also looking at Splyce with the fact that at least their Phoenixes are up now, because when I look at Phoenix defense, with the fact they've got an Muzen carb here, it's not too tricky to try and clear out the minion waves. Although Renegades have shown that they're already in a position that they're not too worried about having minions with them to bring down some of these objectives.
That's true, but AMC can't, I mean, it's not like Kumbhakarna or Poseidon can kind of drop it and go. You got to stay pretty close, and good lord, look at that damage.
I mean, that's what happens with a late game Chronos, right? When you get to that stage where, well, I think pretty much to be fair as well, Funballer's still got a little bit more of his passive to get this game, right?
Yeah, it's only 21 minutes. He's got plenty of power in the bank.
I was like, the look of the game goes on, Chronos always gets stronger. Wait a second, it's only 20 minutes in, and Renegades were just on the fire giant. But I think Scream just got spotted going into the air there, and as he lands, Renegades may look to fight again. Keep an eye on iRaffer and Cherryo. They're the ones with the blinks available right now. Always looking to catch a choke point of someone looking to check this fire giant.
Scream doesn't have beads. He used them a little bit earlier on, so he's vulnerable now without that ultimate. 70 seconds before the beads come up. So it's going to be a little bit of time. iRaffer has that Blink Cataclysm ready. Again, no Frenzy for iRaffer in this game. Sticks with the Blink Shell combo. It's something that he's clearly really liked, but it does make it a little bit harder for Renegades to get these objectives down.
You're starting to see a bit of a situation now where Renegades definitely in the driving seat in this one, but they're having a hard time finding objectives or waiting to play around these neutral ones a little bit more. Trap set around the Gold Fury by Funballer, sets up Aror into an awkward spot. Beautiful Blink Cataclysm from iRaffer after the fact sets up the kill for Dardez, and now Baskin will manage to get away in time thanks to the big old legs that he's got on him. over that wall.
Cute wall there from Scream, blocks off all of Renegades, keeps Baskin moving because he's a big baby that doesn't care about player-made structures anymore.
I was going to say, there's definitely fans out there now going, wait, what was that? Was that a bug? Nope, that's the new big baby.
Not even that new. It was a while ago. Remember, I was thinking about this the other day. Vamana had that little period where he was insane after all those changes, and Baskin's really the only one still playing him these days. Still makes him look pretty insane most games. With the Toxic Blade for Funballer, a little bit harder for him to just stand in the middle of everybody. Love that pickup by Funball.
And the Gold Fury did go the way of Renegades at the tail end of that, so that's 3 Furies for them so far. I think it's 2 Golds and 1 Primal. I've not seen an Oni on the table just yet, but I do believe the next one spawning will be an Oni Fury. And that's the sort of time where I think the Oni Fury is really strong, when the Fire Giant is an opportunity for either side.
Yes, either a Primal or an Oni Fury is exactly what you want from this position. The extra gold certainly doesn't hurt, but Renegades aren't really hurting for gold at this point. They're in a really nice spot with their income. They just need the extra map pressure. They've still got 3K gold kind of waiting for them on the map with these 2 tier 2 towers still standing.
Funballer a bit more damage check on Baskin, and Baskin realizes he's still getting hurt, not magically defended enough to keep up with this Chronos in the mid lane, though. Nika's found CycloneSpin. Luckily, Scream's there to support, and Nika might be under pressure himself, but he's a very mobile god, this King Arthur, and he's doing what he needs to get away. Renegades, meanwhile, are going to take down the tier 2. As you can see, Venenu has got a bit of a split push on, but he may have to fall back soon, because if he keeps going, Renegades may look for a Phoenix, although Nika has been sent back.
Nika's got teleport, though. He can come back. Aror gets Cataclysm on the right-hand side, and he gets shredded by that damage.
Level 13 on a support, you're going to have a bad time there, especially when you look at iRaffer being 4 levels ahead on that Geb. Venenu had to fall back as Nika was there to defend, no continuing trade. Damage is done again, though, as now there's only 1 tier 2 tower remaining for Splyce. And that's on the left-hand side, and it's also below half health.
All things considered, though, I mean, they don't get Phoenix. Aror dies for it, but they don't get Phoenix. Doesn't look like they're going for fire right now.
It's so awkward when you're doing that, though, when we're trying to find, you know, highlights of Splyce maybe getting their way back into this. At the moment, you know, game 1, you're like, there's a 1% chance, then a 10% chance. What are the percentages in this one?
Their late game isn't too bad for Splyce. I like where their late game is. Renegade's late game is probably still better with the Chronos and the Geb. I'll give them a 5%. I think they're at 5% right now.
The main thing from Splyce, though, is their side lanes, as you alluded to earlier, or spoke about, I should say, was the fact that they are where the potency of Splyce has really come from. And both Baskin and CycloneSpin are level 20. Cyclone still needs to finish 1 or 2 items, although, to be fair, when you're playing the likes of a Morrigan, your itemization isn't always the be-all and end-all of things, as you will be transforming quite often.
Aror trying to get into the Fire Giant pit because Funballer will do it much more quickly than he did last game on that Chang'e, but Cherryo wants to fight.
And Baskin also trying to get in there to help out against Cherryo. CycloneSpin rewinding in place. Not the best position to be in as a Morrigan there, but he does survive for now. Beads and Aegis still intact, but the chase is on from Renegades. Baskin under pressure, forced to use the ultimate after the big Cataclysm. Well timed by Baskin. Scream and Venenu are split pushing at the same time here. Aror does end up getting hit by that Desert Fury and Funballer's basics to bring him down. But the Phoenix on the left-hand side is going to fall in trade for the one on the right-hand side.
Not too bad.
I'm okay with this.
Splyce, absolutely. You get some sort of additional map pressure. Venenu gets some much-needed farm. Now he can actually rejoin the fights potentially. He hasn't been in a fight in a long time.
No.
Then that is not going to work, homie.
Is it? Is he really going to go for this? It looks like he is. You know, Scream has Aegis off cooldown, and now with Cyclone dead, Ben's going to have to go for an end because there's no chance of them defending the Titan, or is there? Baskin is here, Venenu on the way. No, Venenu committing actually, he's changed his mind again. This could just be game 2 that quick. Renegades are going to take it 2-0 early on. Thank goodness this is a best of 5.
Man, they are just dominating Splyce right now, and you said you're not too worried about Splyce, but consider me worried because yes, I understand they're scrim partners. Yes, they clearly are very practiced enough against this team, but the same holds true for Renegades. The Renegades know basically everything that Splyce has in the tank, I imagine, and so what do you go back to when your first 2 games went that poorly?
This is definitely a situation where I'm looking at it now and I'm like, well, normally in SMITE, Ryan, and all the big tournaments, it's either the semi-finals that are really good or the finals that's really good and very competitive and not necessarily a one-sided affair. Well, the semis yesterday were both 3-0s. And I'm looking at the final, it's 2-0 to Renegades already. I'm like, what is this? What's going on?
Well, we got the Splyce Invitational after this, right? Even if it goes 3-0, I mean, we still got SMITE to play, no matter what.
True indeed. I'm just quite surprised by how this is going. I thought this would be a lot closer, but Renegades are really out here doing work. Let's get back to the desk to break down game 2.
We're all just living in Raffer's world, man. Another game kind of easily taken by the Renegades. Anatoly, my analyst, of course. How do you break that down?
You just show all the replays where Renegades gets all the kills because they started off great again, defending their own blue buff. Aror feeling very frisky at level 1 for that first blood. Doesn't get the last hit. Nika hitting level 2 on the King Arthur. Runs Aror down, and just a very unorthodox performance from not just this game, but also the whole day entirely. Aror just seems a little bit out of it.
Yeah, not really bringing what we're used to. And, you know, I think it's almost unfair to kind of toss Aror under the bus when Renegades are the ones that are sitting here driving a tractor-trailer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is for me. You know, which team won versus which team lost is an annoying conversation to have sometimes. Right now, this is all Renegades playing out of their mind. Totally, I said it to you off broadcast. I think if this is any other team, we're already done. The fact that Splyce has played this well against what Renegades have been able to do is nice in its own right. Renegades are they're just running out of control right now.
They really are. Honestly, that
My
4-for-nothing at the tier 1 mid tower, almost a deicide. Baskin narrowly escaping by the skin of his teeth. Cherryo on this Erlang Shen was a great pickup with the timing of also banning away the RDO to prevent the cripples, because Auror's pick was still up in the air, and he goes for the Cabrakan, surprisingly enough, not the Hercules that was available.
I like the Cabrakan. I think the Cabrakan has some nice look against a lot of these options, right? The stuns are good as well. Again, Funball, 0 deaths, able to just do fantastic stuff. This man, Cherryo, only a single death and great stuff. Another hybrid build coming out from him as well. Big kill, 6, I think, or so. And then still a tremendous amount of assists as well.
Something that Splyce did well at the end of the game there was having Venenu split push that left side Phoenix. They were able to at least get one bird at the end of the game, but the problem was Splyce were taking a fight outside of their right side Phoenix, and they all got chased down, couldn't really get out of that, and Venenu was their last-ditch effort trying to end the game, couldn't outpace the likes of Renegades.
Like you said, that was kind of the shot. That was the shot that Splyce had. So with game 2 behind them, of course, this is a 5-game series. And so with that in mind, Splyce have a ton of time to come back. This is not, you know, the end of the world. Nobody's singing just yet. So with that in your brain, how does Splyce come back? We saw them ban on her. We saw them leave it open. We saw many different approaches from Splyce so far in their 2 games. What's got to change?
It's not the picks and bans that I'm worried about for Splyce. It's their gameplay decisions. The invades at the blue buff have not been working in games 1 and 2. We're seeing just Renegades getting the better end of it. They're expecting these blue buff contests, and they're winning the trays for it. Yesterday against Dignitas, Cherryo was able to strip away the blue buffs as well. I think that this is what Renegades is bringing to the table. So it's time for Splyce to figure out a different strategy, move away from Nika's side of the map, look for maybe trying ways to shut down Funballer around the purple buff.
Well, game number 3 will come right about now. Picks and bans here for Splyce and Renegades. If I'm Renegades, I'm not changing a damn thing. Everything's staying the same. If I can put Anhur in the mid lane, I'm doing it. If I can get Naja in the jungle, I'm doing it. If I can get Horus or Geb, I'm doing it. Really, Renegades, I mean, the Geb first ban. Oh, man. Is iRaffer really that much of a problem on the Geb?
Did you see that fake back that he did earlier?
The most iRaffer play, by the way.
That was awesome, because they got the beads out of Venenu earlier, respecting a lot of the damage coming through from Dardez's on her. Used the beads. Not even a minute goes by until the blink Geb happens.
That was the pen trick. You know, we say in games where you write down your score, if you grab your pen preemptively, it makes your opponent think they're going to score, right? And it's an old school gamer metaphor, but go with me. That's the pen trick. I'm like, yeah, I'm back and I'm not doing anything. Surprise! Going for it.
I'm surprised.
You got surprised?
Yeah, my heart was like, whoo.
Ooh, what were you like?
Ooh.
Freya. Oop. None for her. Banned out as per usual. We've seen what happens when Freya gets through to the Renegade squad, and they don't want to play against it either, to be honest with you. Second ban here for Renegades. Splyce has been successful with the Muzen Cobb, sure. We've liked the Vamana, but it didn't beat them last time, so.
Ooh, okay.
Like that choice.
So that's why the Muzen was banned away, because Chronos, the Muzen, Jormungandr, and Naja, those are like your 4 candidate first picks, and Splyce recognized that, okay, Naja was an issue. They actually banned it away in game number 2, wanting to lock that again. And Renegades, they had an easy time, I think, against the Muzen. I'm actually surprised that they even banned away the AMC.
I agree. I would have left everything the same if I'm Renegades and forced Splyce to change things up. Because if you're Renegades and you say give us the same composition, Splyce will, lose, right?
Yeah.
So, Renegades, the Anhur and the Chronos, the 2 carries that they would pick if this was blind selection. Naja on the clock, Splyce on the clock, Naja in their roster, trying to figure out what 2 characters they want to pair.
Honestly, if I'm Renegades, I'm looking at Erlang Shen again, right? And if I'm Splyce, I'm thinking about that, but with Naja already locked in, and if we lock in Erlang Shen, that means we're revealing that one of these 2 assassins is going to go into the support for Aror's hands, and then you got to worry about the cripples potentially after the fact. Aror could be a selection coming through, whether it's Nika or Baskin. Jormungandr highly picked between these 2 players.
Jormungandr and Kumbhakarna here chosen. Cherryo doesn't play it all that often, but I can't help but think a Raven would be fantastic in this selection. I really value overhead kick for Naja and what Jormungandr want to do. And then Jormungandr is going to dive. Being able to counter dive with the Raven is relatively nice. We'll have to wait on our jungle selection. Renegades have been leaning away from characters like that and more leaning on the hyper carries. And even when they go to a setup character, it's a Naja or an Erlang who can absolutely carry the game by themselves as well. So they've been enabling Cherryo to be that offensive person. Khepri here selected for iRaffer. And again, no slouch on the Khepri. Great choice to go with the Hug Bug.
It's funny to see how Renegades are straying away from the Zhong. But with Chronos open, I think that's the idea, that Funballer is going to be doing a lot of damage. But they still got to respect the fact that Splyce can pick the Zhong, so they're going to strip that one away. Yet again, Erlang could be the next go-to pick, as Splyce recognized that the junglers are available for Cherryo. And with a Khepri, you don't want to have like this hyper late game carry jungler with a second life. So maybe a Bakasura ban.
I love this Chernobog ban. Expect the Daji after Splyce. I love this Chernobog ban. CycloneSpin has gone to Chernobog. Splyce and CycloneSpin have gone to Chernobog a number of times when their back is against the wall, because Renegades have been able to, we identified kind of the buddy system. Renegades are able to rotate faster than virtually any other team. That's really what has made them successful as of late. The Chernobog cuts that in half. The Chernobog is what Splyce look to when they're getting out-rotated, and I love the ban from Renegades. That is absolutely a heads-up play. Splyce ban away the Party Monkey, leaving the Daji open.
That's right. Daji's open. Bakasura is available. Erlang Shen is another contestable pick there. And I'm not too worried about locking in Erlang Shen, because there's no real cripple that you got to worry about from Splyce. A good amount of lockdown from the Kumbhakarna. And with the Chernobog ban, like you were talking about, this leaves CycloneSpin having to go back to, I think, more traditional picks in Season 6 of the Jingweis, of the Hachiman, something that we actually haven't seen too much of at MSI.
Real big brain selection here from Renegades with the Achilles. There are 3 characters that have the execute component. Ao Kwang and Johnny's not in this game. Thanatos and players aren't as favorable on him, especially when there's nothing to interrupt with Soul Reap. And Achilles. So Renegades pick the Achilles.
Sure, but I mean, between Naja, Jormungandr, and Kumbhakarna, there's your front line, right? Unless Jorm's going mid, unless like Naja's, or unless Achilles would have been picked for Splyce to go for CycloneSpin's hands, I wasn't too worried about the Achilles pick for Splyce.
Achilles jungle is attractive, and when you have the Khepri, I'm staring at the executes, man.
Yeah, that means Jormungandr is gonna have to go mid, right? Or some unconventional
Jorm
pick.
Solo, Kumba support, Naja mid.
Something unconventional, right? Like, no matter where you put them, if you're picking Achilles,
you're right.
something is just way off there. And
You're totally right.
And I don't think Splyce is willing to risk that being on elimination game.
I think carry Achilles is reasonable. And you know what? Knowing that these teams are scrim partners, knowing that we've seen the set carry go very, very well, the assassin carry in general, I think the Achilles carry for CycloneSpin is a possibility, and that's why we see it selected here instead of last choice. Because make no bones about it, every selection and where it is matters, specifically when you play against these guys back and forth. So that Achilles being selected there instead of last choice, not only does that kind of take it away from Splyce if that's what you're doing, but it also leaves that last selection open.
And honestly, I think CycloneSpin actually played a warrior against a hunter thus far in Season 6. I think it was against Sandman, and I think it might have been the Achilles. It was either the Achilles or the Bologna, and definitely not the Osiris. And I don't think it had the most success for him, and I think that's why he stopped doing it.
Two hunters being moused over here by Splyce. Medusa, a team fight carry for sure. But the Nuwa offers safety, damage from a distance, and a little bit of a cloaking option for Naja. I really liked yesterday, Splyce was using Nuwa in the mid lane with Hercules, and what would happen was Nuwa would send the fog into the jungle, and Herc would follow the fog and then surprise players with the Earthbreaker. That was really cute. So we'll look out for that one here. Splyce, though, looking for the mid lane and the carry. He could be the choice. Very curious to see where they're going to go. Yorm, going to change pretty much how everything is played, though, specifically around those Phoenixes.
And I like the Nuwa selection with the Hou-Yi, but I also want to see the Nuwa being played for CycloneSpin in that long lane, trying to get the Nuwa a bunch of levels sooner rather than later. I think that if Venenu plays the Hou-Yi, those Sun's going to be more impactful around those early skirmishes as opposed to the Nuwa.
Splyce on the clock right now, and they might have a moment or two to figure this one out. Anhur, Chronos, Khepri, Achilles. Let's play the chess puzzle at the back of the newspaper. Who's your fifth choice here? Assuming Splyce, confirm these as we continue on. Who's your last pick here for Renegades if you're Coach Tolly?
It's either Erlang, Shen, or maybe Bakasura even. Maybe Bakasura because it's going to do so much early burst damage that somebody's going to be in that execute threshold. You got Khepri to be able to save your life as well. This is an aggressive draft from Renegades minus the Khepri, and that's what they're going to be relying on is just the sheer damage. Although you could still run more control with the likes of Daji, with the likes of Erlang Shen, because you also got Chronos follow-up, on her follow-up. You can build a tanky jungler style if you want. Circuit is still open. We haven't really seen that recently, but the setup is certainly there. Dardez and Funballer have been always putting on a show between the Anhur Chronos, so I wouldn't be surprised to see either the hyper late game carry Cherryo or more setup and utility style, allowing his backline to flourish.
That's why I want to see the torturer. I want to see hot Daji come out, man. The hot hands and the powwow. That's what Cherryo wants to do every game. And for the first time this set, it has not been banned. So I'm definitely looking towards that direction for Renegades here. As you said, it's going to provide damage in the late game, but in the mid game, Daji has some trouble kind of taking players down before she's got her fourth item.
Sure.
She's really item dependent. Well, what if you don't have to bring them to zero and you have an execute available on your squad? Renegades, that might be the good look.
Maybe Mercury. Maybe get global pressure for himself.
Okay.
Trying to get people down in the execute threshold. I'm still remembering that replay that we've had of the Jormungandr dying under his tier 1 tower because of the Mert Gold going through, then the Achilles ultimate to finish him off,
and
seeing the Jormungandr spinning.
All right, brief pause in the action. We had a moment where admins had to come in and step in, but everything should be set as is. Splyce finishing off their draft and Renegades figuring out what the last choice should be. Tolly says something more Erlang-y. I would like to see the Daji.
No surprise to see Nuwa and Hou-Yi being locked in, but a little surprised not to see like the Xingwei or the Hachiman.
Okay.
And damage
right,
is
totally
the name of the game for Renegades.
Bakasura coming through here. He's a demon eater, right? That's what he does?
Sure.
Demon eater for Renegades here. Should be an interesting look for sure. Chronos on her, Baka, Achilles. That's a whole lot of action. Renegades have had their foot on the gas. They've then pushed their foot through the floor and are Fred Flintstoning their way, man. This is an incredible draft for a team with a lot of momentum, and this draft needs the momentum to be successful. So I love the way they're looking.
Splyce can no longer try to invade the blue buffs. It hasn't worked games 1 and 2. If they try it again in game number 3 against an Achilles, they will fail for a third time.
So where do they go?
Anywhere but blue buff.
Anywhere?
Anywhere but the blue buff.
Do you want to see Splyce play more on their side of the map then and avoid invades and just play more passive? Is that the goal? Because the aggressive nature hasn't worked.
No, the late game from Renegades is actually super scary, so I'm not waiting to try to out-farm Renegades. So maybe you're either contesting the speed buff, but it's against the Bakasura, so that's not going to be easy. Or I'm looking for timing windows. Look where Renegades is going to invade and counter-invade elsewhere to avoid.
We'll certainly see. It could be the last game of the finals. Up to Splyce to make that not true. Renegades, Splyce, Game 3.
Thank you so much, Tom and Tolly on the desk. Yes, Splyce have an uphill battle now to take on. They have to win 3 games in a row, but we might as well just take it one game at a time here. And as Tolly was talking about on the desk, they've invaded the blue twice and it's gone badly. Ryan, are you feeling the same way? Should they avoid this blue attempt?
Fool them once. Shame on them. Fool them twice. Shame on you. And some Splyce's perspective. Fool me 3 times. I don't know what the third part is of that. So hopefully it doesn't happen because I can't continue the metaphor.
Is that an issue with how the meta is being played at the SPL level, though? That this is where all the pressure is at the blue buff and nowhere else now? Like, it just feels like everybody's in the same trap. Doing this.
The first respawn, yes, is the only buff that continually gets invaded on the first respawn. It used to be purples. Now it's really blues. For the most part, though, it's red buff invades more than anything else, and this time it's a little bit different. No iRaffer starting at speed. He's starting with Nika in lane, and I imagine that's because the Khepri clear, not too bad.
Yeah, he can actually help clear the wave a little bit more effectively and give some protections too. You did actually keep an eye on Dardez there. He started the speed buff with Cherryo, and Cherryo's now rotated over to the red buff this time instead. And this just feels where Renegades are adjusting their starts time and time again based off their composition and also what the opposition are choosing to play.
Letting Cherryo not go to blue buff and instead start on this left-hand side. Looks like he may try and walk in and steal away this purple.
And he might be able to kill Cyclone if he wanted to there, but instead he's going for the buff. Cyclone going to jump in to try and secure the buff, and does just that.
Cherryo just 10 steps ahead there, man. That mini reset was just flawless right there. And I'm a little surprised. I mean, Scream was on left side mid-harpies. Venenu was on the left side of the map. Go help your boy out, man. I mean, Cherry, you don't know exactly what he has at level 1. With that play, you imagine he's got Eat, but then he jumps on CycloneSpin right away. That means you know he doesn't have a jump anymore. That may have been able to be a first blood for Splyce, but they were a little too focused on farming mid.
So just that purple buff stripped away then by Renegade so far in this game. No first blood just yet. Scream sashes Dardez in the mid lane. No surprise to see Dardez just stand there, eat it, and then throw a basic attack straight back into Scream's face there.
Yeah, Dardez's fear level might be lower than anybody's on the planet except CycloneSpin's, because neither of them feel fear whatsoever.
Dardez is definitely one of the players that I look at the cam of, and he just, face doesn't change that often, even just looks so calm and collected. I was about to say Cyclone might need to be calm and collected there as Cherryo jumped on in, but no crazy amounts of pressure just yet. Cherryo there to just soak a bit of experience, hit that level 3.
That's just because he already knows that he set CycloneSpin a bit behind by invading purple, so he's not really setting Funballer too far behind. Take a look at your XP per minute charts on the left side of your screen. And because there was nothing up in the jungle whatsoever, the rest of the team was splitting that pretty effectively. Renegades continue to give Dardez the majority of back camps when possible in comparison to a lot of other teams. Those are pretty much reserved for solo laners or junglers alone. Renegades really like to give those over to Dardez, and when he's playing as well as he has been, I think that's a wise choice.
Renegades so far have just looked so dominant this tournament. Beating Pittsburgh Knights, beating Dignitas, and now 2 games up against Splyce in this best-of-5 finals. They've still not dropped a game yet, Ryan.
Nope, they're undefeated at the midseason Invitational against the hardest bracket.
It really is.
To be frank, I mean, Dignitas was a favorite coming in, so was Pittsburgh Knights. Renegades have easily dispatched both of those two, and now they're facing off against a third favorite and have really barely broken a sweat up until now.
I mean, they came into this tournament at 6th seed in the SPL as well, so they weren't at the top of the shop after their performances there. But the ramp up to this point is really clear. I would say Splyce have a little bit more ramping up to do because this is a relatively newer Splyce team as well, even though they've had such good plays so far.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Baskin joined just a couple weeks ago, Scream and Venenu the same way, so you know that this is not the ceiling for Splyce, I don't think, but don't forget that Baskin's departure looms. He says he's not playing Split 2, so Splyce may have to go back to the drawing board again if that holds true.
Well, there's a couple of players this tournament that were waiting in the wings that I could definitely scream to have an opportunity in that solo lane. We'll find out as the season progresses what Splyce choose to do, but for now, it's more focused on trying to get him back into this finals, back onto an even keel if possible. And it all starts with this one game here. The start so far, though, hasn't been as detrimental as we've seen in the previous 2 games.
No, not quite, but Renegades have kind of had these slower starts at times and still been able to break the game wide open. The big thing is that Scream and Aror have not just fallen behind because of bad decision-making in the early game, and that's the first time that's happened so far in this set. So that's a win, no doubt.
Last time we saw Bakasura played by Cherryo in this tournament, it was alongside the Horus that dived on in alongside him to support with iRaffer. But iRaffer going to be playing a bit of a different take on the support role this time with this Khepri pickup. He's still going to get the assistance, though, from that ultimate, which means you want to kill the Bakasura, right? But then if you kill him, he's going to be alive again.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the same level of dive, but it's still the same level of help, I would say, with this Khepri. It's not just the Scarab's Blessing either. Getting that damage mitigation from the Rising Dawn is such a big boost for you when you're trying to dive onto the enemy backline. I think that's an underrated part of Khepri's kit. If I remember correctly, though, I don't think iRaffer prioritizes leveling the 2. I think he levels the 3 most of the time. Looks like he's going with a 2 so far, but sometimes you'll see supports and other characters put a couple points in one ability to help clear and then start to max. I wouldn't mind seeing him max the root here up against the more immobile gods of Jormungandr, Naja, and Nuwa.
There's definitely a lot to do with the supports where it's to do with leveling, because there's multiple things that can happen. Dardez going to pre-beads after the sash there, worried about the Windfire wheels that time around, because I'm surprised by that, because it's not always Dardez pops those beads straight away, is it? Sometimes he's quite hesitant around it. I think he realized he had no support around him in case he got engaged on.
Yeah, iRaffer was nowhere nearby. He was staring at Venenu and Aror right before that, so he knows that if he gets ulted, he's dead as he hits the ground. It's the appropriate response to that sash.
Right, Harpies have spawned. Cherryo just eats one of them in front of Aror as Aror's trying to secure the other one if he can. With Venenu just being there, I think he just about got that too. And going back to what we were just talking about this Khepri, supports, a lot of them have these abilities that, I mean, you've got multiple options of where to level first. Sure, you can go for your clear, you could go for increased root duration, or even the abduct for the increased silence and pull duration too. A lot of differences there which you can play around the gods differently because of.
Definitely don't have to prioritize clear nearly as much on the supports. That's the big thing that kind of homogenizes every other god in the way that they level, is that they have to go with their clear ability. They have to clear the wave. Supports don't have to worry about that too much. So it looks like he's helping out in the early stages. Anhur clear isn't great in the early game, so that could be why. Maybe once Dardez has Impale to the point where it's going to put everything to 1 HP, the 2 to 3 points in Rising Dawn he already has will be enough, and he can start prioritizing something else.
I always feel when you play against the Ho Yi in the laning phase that sometimes you just got to stand there when he marks you and go, you won't hit this, and hope for the best.
Yep.
Because sometimes you're not really sure where the bounce is going to come from. As long as you don't line yourself up directly straight, you may be okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the gambler. You're always gambling a little bit against Ho Yi, but Ho Yi is also gambling at the same time with a lot of those bounces. Creates a fun dynamic. We were talking about maybe Armada pulling out the Ho Yi yesterday, I believe, up against Rival. They did not, but I'm glad to see at least a little bit of it. I do think this is a character worth picking.
He's definitely one of those characters where it's like sometimes the no juke is the best juke in those situations, or just varying it up quite a bit there. Right-hand Harpies have been looked at from both teams quite consistently. Left ones have just respawned here, both teams around the area. But iRaffer just going to throw out the root and hope for the best, as Splyce will soak those up. Splyce with a slight lead in terms of gold right now. Not by much. Experience, completely even keel.
Yeah, this is a much different pace from the Renegades so far. I mean, even though, like you said, it wasn't the back-breaking start for Scream or Aror or Baskin like it was in games 1 or 2, it still hasn't been Renegades looking at red buffs quite yet. This Naja, I think, a big deterrent. Ho Yi as well, a great jungle fighter, which makes it that much easier to defend your buffs.
You just saw Venenu use the ultimate there. I think there was a little bit of a warrior trap was being set around that Gold Fury. A couple of members of Renegades missing off the map at the same time there. And a lack of wall coverage from Splyce on that left-hand side just forced Venenu to use the ultimate, which Renegades would be quite happy with, to be honest.
And CycloneSpin had just backed, so he couldn't keep track of Funball is the big thing.
Find the ricochet there onto Funballer. He'll back himself now. And like you said, just with the Cyclone, it's not just that. I think it's also, there's extra information in that too. If Venenu's ulting, it's saying, Splyce don't have wards around the Gold Fury anyway too. So Renegades get more info of like, hey, we actually do have good control here.
And Cherryo starts to get excited because a Nuwa with no ultimate for a Bakasura is easy pickings.
Tasty treat.
Exactly. Now he's got the Golden Blade as well. Just ups his clear speed. He still gives him movement speed. Doesn't really care about the lack of power because Butcher Blades is true damage. So you've got a lot of options still to get those kills.
Harpies go down the right-hand side, contested one more time, and that's where most of the action's been centered around so far in the first 9 minutes. Definitely feeling a bit better if you're Splyce, though. You're not already feeling like, oh god, get us into the next game. With how the first two have begun here, left-hand Harpy's going to go the way of Splyce again. This is all about farming the early game. We talk about scaling as the game goes on. It's kind of evenly matched, I want to say, between these two. Ever so slightly, I'd say, favoring Splyce by just a hair.
I don't know, man. I think that the Chronos Khepri kind of tilts it a bit towards Renegades for me, but I agree that it's incredibly close. Either one, I think, can really take it when it comes to the later stages, and that's why Splyce's focus of these mid-camps has been so important. They've had complete mid-camp control basically throughout this game. That's one of the reasons you pick Nuwa, or pick Najaz, because his mid-camp control is so great.
Just rotated to the right-hand side, but the sash didn't connect. Nika got to preemptively use the ultimate there. Windfire Wheels was still available for Scream, but Nika not deterred from keeping the aggression going and punishing Scream a little bit there for just rotating to his lane in the first place.
Yeah, but losing that Fatal Strike is a big deal. I mean, you have real kill potential against Jormungandr in lane when you have that. You don't have to get him all the way to 0. Without it, and Baskin is basically safe, and it's not like Scream invested anything either.
Cherryo actually gone for the Golden Blade this game. We've seen Golden Blade kind of fall off from favor quite a lot in the jungle. Why Bakasura though, especially when he can eat minions?
All Baka really, it's the mobility, it's the attack speed, and we don't care about power because Butcher Blades is true damage.
Scream missed a second sash there, and you're starting to worry just a little bit about landing those, because Najjar is such a feast or farming god with landing those abilities. High skill cap god for the most part. He seems simple on paper, but if you can't land those sashes, it makes it a very tricky situation to be in.
It does, but Scream is... Look, last game was not great for him. The Thor game was in particular rough. It was decision-making and mechanics weren't always there. But Scream is one of the most storied junglers in the entire game when it comes to performing well on land. In fact, I think he's only second to adapting, because look at the runs that Scream has had. Season 2 runner-up at Worlds under that enemy banner, a world champion with E United. You have to understand that this is a guy that has done this a million times on LAN. So even though last game was rough, I don't think you have to worry too much about him.
Tournament format, though, is a completely different beast to a league format as well. Sure, all the games are played live and all players are here in the same sort of booths. But in a tournament situation, it's a knockout every single time. You can't end up losing or dropping games. Whereas the league, you know, as long as the season goes well overall, you can still end up on top with consistent performances. Aror trying to defend this red buff, though. Crit from CycloneSpin. Just check Cherryo for a second. He'll leap away. Red buff defended, but purple, meanwhile, stolen by Renegades.
But you start to see it. Renegades is testing the waters. That's dipping your foot in the pool, and no, it's not... I guess it's not too cold today. Maybe we will go for a swim on your end of the jungle. Even though they don't get red, they get purple.
It's funny, when Cyclone hit that crit then, I thought it was Jingwei. I completely forgot it was a Hoe after talking about it for the first 10 minutes.
See, that's the thing. Cyclone just has an increased crit chance by being CycloneSpin. It doesn't matter if he's Jingwei or
Is that
not.
if you win Worlds you get that? Is that what happens?
No, it's just if you're CycloneSpin.
Seems to work out as well with some of the players. Although Vote isn't too far behind, in fairness.
That's true. That's true.
Out of all the people that get crits, it feels like Vote at the moment and Cyclone are the two.
Yes, I agree with that. And that's why my theory was you have to watch 13,000 hours of anime in order to get a higher crit chance, but I don't know if Vote's done that. So maybe it's maybe it's something else. There's a different requirement.
Scottish anime? I don't even know if that's a thing.
I can't. If that is a thing, I'm really sad I haven't watched it.
I need to find it. That's
yeah,
what I'm
that would
looking
be good.
I want to hear those accents too. Goal just slightly ahead for Splyce then at the moment. It's still a knife edge of a dance between the two. You can even see how this game's going on, that even now Renegades are starting to proxy a little bit in terms of farm. Nika starting to get a bit more aggressive now that he's tankier, not as worried about the potential ganks that could come through, because he's going to have the health to survive a little bit longer and hope for a rotation.
Little curious that Nika actually goes for Runic Shield instead of the Blackthorn Hammer that we usually see in this third slot right after Glad Shield. Makes him less tanky overall, I would say. It certainly helps him more against Baskin, Ven, and Aror, but it does mean that that Cyclone and Scream have a slightly easier time because they have less health to chunk through.
Baskin trying to defend his blue on this right side. Does a good job of it. Did lose the babies, but at the end of the day, he's only really wanting that big one. Gets that cooldown, gets that buff. As Cherryo now looking for a red, being set up for a trap. Nice sash, gets the beads out of Cherry. Cherry immediately turn round, butcher blades, and then changes his mind after you said the crit came through.
Of course, you just have to assume that you're getting crit every single time. That's a small win, though, for Splyce. Good defense of that buff.
And the purple buff goes down the left-hand side too. Sure, the red was defended. Right, and Harpy's going to go the way with Renegades. Starting to feel like a finals now. Starting to feel like a game one of finals, to be fair, where both teams kind of, you know, check each other out inch by inch to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure the Renegades players, I mean, what, only iRaffer has ever won a LAN. Maybe, or no, Funballer in the beginning days. Had some pretty decent success. But I don't know if he ever won a LAN either. So it starts to set in a little bit, I think. It starts to feel kind of real that you're right on the edge, and it definitely can get to you, for sure.
It's definitely a point of being calm and not overly aggressive just because you are winning the set too. But also, you just can't lose that edge, especially with the way Renegades play more than anything. With iRaffer on this team, I'm not too worried though, because he's definitely someone that can help the team shift gears into that middle area. The old energy days is something that they used to do around the 16-17 minute mark, and it could happen here again.
Hit the gas pedal for sure. You look at, in situations like this, you usually look for who has the better objective burn. And I imagine that it would be Splyce normally. The Renegades finally get a frenzy. iRaffer decides to go against the Blink this time around. He's playing the much more defensive option in the Khepri. And now, with the Transcendence on her, he already does a lot of damage to objectives because of Shifting Sands. The Chronos is starting to get up there in damage, level 15. And a Frenzy, I think Renegades can burn an objective if Splyce are unaware very, very quickly.
Well, iRaffer and Cherryo getting aggressive around the red buff again after taking the left-hand Harpies. Nice and early this time for this red buff too. They still are always over here to just try and get some wards down, get some vision. And Splyce are well aware of that, bringing sentries themselves. iRaffer rotating back to mid, may get yawned on by Aror, but just dodged it out in time there. Red buff spawning, pressure relieved. The pressure from Renegades has actually been switched up. They're looking at Baskin.
Very smart by Baskin to not waste any time, don't risk it. Just use that ultimate. You don't want to give up that first blood and kind of break the game open in Renegade's favor.
And now a bit more opportunity then to exploit the right-hand side here. Not much to really get other than the fact that Baskin's base in, the minion wave's already been cleared. Maybe they can get some tower damage off. But for now, pressure relieved momentarily.
I like the Aegis pickup from Baskin. I mean, as soon as he doesn't have his ultimate, Cherryo really does get to just kind of go to town in that matchup. With the Aegis, it makes it a little bit harder to do so.
Interesting to see iRaffer actually go for that belt this time round as well. The Frenzy's been picked up here, and like you were saying, the previous couple of games, we've seen different options from him. Obviously, Blink not necessarily the best thing on a Khepri, because all you're really looking for there is an Abduct. But hold that foot, Gold Fury started up, and there's that Frenzy popped.
Aurora, the only one close enough. He's going to try and blink it and get it, but Renegade's going to get the first objective.
Aurora, that was still under pressure. Scream comes around the back, gets the slash on Dardez.
Nice.
Dardez going to use the beads, but it was a rope-a-dope by Scream, who hits the Windfire wheels onto Funballer. Funballer, though, doesn't get pressured further on as Cherryo went to the back line, and there's iRaffer with this peel and support that was required to keep Cherryo alive.
Beautifully done. Baskin was stealth, too, but didn't get a chance to get him. Baskin can't be stunned there. Venenu going to be first blood, but Baskin right behind him, or they actually switched.
Nika gets a double kill off the back of that, and the Gold Fury goes the way of Renegades. We said 16, 17 minutes ago jokingly about the old energy days. Well, it was exactly that. And now it's a 3K lead.
And just bad backs from Splyce. Well, like I said, as soon as you see Frenzy in this composition from Renegades, you have to respect how much objective damage they're going to do. Venenu, CycloneSpin, not there. Scream, not there. Baskin's not going to be able to be there. And so Renegades just really force it on that objective really nicely. No way that, I mean, Aror tries his best, but that's a very low percentage steal opportunity.
And I love seeing Nika go straight away to make sure he defends against a Pyromancer potential turnaround play there. So Renegades get a Gold Fury, Pyromancer, and the Tier 1 tower in the mid lane that opens up the map even more to pressure around that red buff on the left-hand side. And even when Cyclone thinks he's going to get a bit of a chance to answer back of the tower on the left-hand side, Cherryo's here to say no.
Everyone spreads out so well from Renegades, make sure that the farm is evenly distributed And that was a great ultimate from Scream. He sashes Dardez, gets the beads, turns, ults Funballer, but Cherryo just immediately jumps in and drops the Regurgitate. And that's what I was talking about in Game 1, where Cherry finds the very important ultimate on a CycloneSpin, and Splyce didn't do a good enough job of making Renegades back it up and respect the rest of the team's damage. Cherryo wastes no time at all and understands that his life is likely less valuable than Funballer's at that point anyways, before you even add in the great peel and support that iRaffer was able to give him.
And in doing that, he's isolating Scream on his own. Because a Najjar at this stage, unless he's super fed and ahead in the game, Najjar is a setup man more than anything else. And when he's got someone in that Windfire Wheels, you're hoping on landing there's damage to confirm back and secure the kill. But if Renegades are making sure your damage dealers can't get involved, it puts you on an island.
And Scream has gone for a much more survivable build. I mean, tons of HP, tons of movement speed, regrowth, Winged Blade, Talaria. And I love this build on him. I think it's really, really strong. But you're right, he is relegated to setup right now. And Najjar has this kind of weird bell curve where you can be a hyper carry in the early game, one-shot you, do all this stuff, then becomes real setup, feels like you do no damage, and then in the late game, if you build damage, you're one-shotting people all of a sudden. It's kind of a weird curve, but we're certainly in that lull where Scream can't do it all by himself.
Just trying to get his own back half. His iRaffer's not going to give him that option there. CycloneSpin's got to be careful on this left-hand side with his tier 1 tower not here and multiple members of Renegades dancing around the jungle. He's just going to watch his position so much. Can we see Ward's place real quick, Doug? Just want to see how this is going because I just feel like Renegades are controlling it so much more than Splyce. Although the ward situation looks relatively even.
Yeah, pretty even. Either more intelligent warding spread out by Renegades.
Shame on you, Nika. Shame.
He's a solo
It's
laner.
a finals, Nika.
He's not getting ganked. It's fine. He doesn't need the
He can
wards.
still help.
That's the Benji school right there.
It definitely is. Meanwhile, the jungle Aror trying to keep people busy. iRaffer and Cherryo just dancing around here as Venenu and Scream trying to clear out some minions in the mid-wave. Even Nika over on this left-hand side. Why are Renegades still here? Is it all about this red still?
It's marginal advantage they can take. They don't feel comfortable enough to go to fire. They can't really siege tier 2s yet either.
Aror's abducted into a dangerous spot now, and the CC changed just too much. He's going to fall down into sleepy time, but it get executed by Funballer. Now the World Serpent used by Baskin. In the mid lane, Venenu felt pressured enough to use the ultimate too, as Nika got aggressive there. Just small wins, as you were saying, for Renegades seem to be coming up well.
Baskin actually lands fairly aggressively, but not enough to get punished by the Boyds of Renegades. They, like I said, it's just a little bit too hard for them to push tier 2s at this point. No Fury, no Pyromancer, so we may as well be taking something from Splyce and keeping this advantage rolling.
It really feels like Splyce have tried to take a step back about the aggression, and it's actually hindering them again in a different variation now, as Renegades are just picking their opportunities where they want, and Splyce just always seem to be on the run.
Venenu on the run right away. Cherryo blinks on top of him, no ultimate. And there's that snack we were talking about.
Cyclone was waiting around the back, and iRaffer's there with the ult to keep Cherryo alive, and Cherryo was just dancing around, expecting more autos. Nika, meanwhile, does bring down the worm under the tier 2 tower and continue on towards Aror, who has to use the ult to disengage. Scream now has to exit around the left. The Cyclone jumps in. The ricochet off the pillar didn't do much for him. iRaffer's still tanking up. iRaffer under pressure, and he will end up going down here to that Windfire Wheels if Scream's got the damage.
He does, but just barely. Has to use both relics to try and stay up. Ring toss misses, so does the sash, and that might spell the end.
Nika no abilities just yet. The dash, though, is just coming back up in time. He'll be fine too. 6-1 then, as Renegades force Splyce to play defense consistently and just continue to chip away at the health bars of not just the players, but the towers as well.
When did this XP lead happen for Cherryo? I mean, he's 3 levels up all of a sudden. Both Dardez and iRaffer 2 levels up over Venenu and Aror respectively. It's this slow bleed that we were talking about where we don't have anything else to take, but Renegades don't just sit on their hands. So many teams do. I feel like teams are really scared to just fight to fight, and because it's so much about objectives these days. Teams have become so much more disciplined that they kind of sit on their hands at times like this. But the Renegades are so willing to just brawl you and happen to take some buffs in the meantime. It feel like a lot of teams are so worried about, well, our risk-reward calculation isn't there. You know, our risk, we're up 3K. If we just die trying to get reds, instead of, we would be up 4K if we got a couple reds, but if we died, we're only up 1K. That's too much of a swing. Let's not do it. Renegades just no fear, man. They're getting in there, and because of that, not only do they get the reds, that puts them up another 1,000 or so, but they get a couple kills, which really blows the game open, not necessarily from gold as much as it is XP.
I also feel as well it's Renegade's mindset. As a team, they're doing that. It's not just one or two individuals that are always looking for that. The whole team seems to feel that anyone could go off at any single moment in terms of aggression, and they're always there to back each other up and work as a unit to do so. Pyromancer was taken down, Fury as well, as we watched all that go. Splyce weren't in a position to deal with either of those, but attention could start to turn towards the Fire Giant relatively soon. And that is an Oni Fury wave that's pushing down these lanes now.
Frenzy's up and available for iRaffer. Nika grouped with the rest of the squad. He's looking like he rolled back his client playing old Achilles. He's been dominating.
Look at him up right now. Venenu's in mid lane, left-hand side. You've got CycloneSpin. Meanwhile, Renegades are on the Fire Giant here. Hello! We need something to happen. Aror ends up trying to go in to try and do something on his own. Scream is one alongside him, but he's already dead. And now Renegades might be able to just delete the front line before the back line is even here.
Close, but no cigar there for Nika. Aror with a nice blink to get away, but tier 2 tower, just a couple autos from Nika will get the job done. Cyclone's getting some gold for Splyce, as is Venenu.
But you're right. Phoenix, though?
Yeah, I mean, Splyce are just kind of rolling over.
It looks like so. The middle finger's going to go down, and Renegade's like, well, you're not going to base. We're going to charge in to try and win the finals. 5 members strong with a Fire Giant around their waist. Renegades might try and end it all here, but Venenu is here and managing to force them off. Baskin frontlining well alongside Aror will push Renegades back out of the base. But Renegades haven't run away too far just yet. The slow pool of death from Baskin and that Gem of Isolation, though, is keeping Renegades just on the tower line for now.
Love the call from Renegades, because what do they lose for going for that? A couple relics, sure. I mean, beads for Cherryo and Dardez, but you're up 10k. I think you can still siege the majority of these tier 2s without those beads, and Splyce really has to make a play in order to keep this tournament going.
Renegades is just looking unstoppable, and honestly, credit to Splyce to getting this far in the tournament, but right now Splyce just can't seem to get anything going for themselves. I understand the trying attempts at split pushing to get some global goal back, but they lose a Phoenix off it. It just doesn't seem worthwhile. A Fire Giant and a Phoenix for a tier 2 tower, sure you need the gold, Ryan, but it's a Phoenix.
Yeah, but I don't know how well Splyce can defend the Phoenix if they're 5 strong, to be honest with you.
Hoyi and Nuar are 2 of the best defenders on the Phoenix side. If you think about it, sure, Hoyi might have to use his ult to do so, but it's something to help defend.
Yeah, that's true. Their defense really isn't too bad, and maybe that would have been enough to at least force Renegades to disengage a little bit before they had spent some of the gold from that team fight. But now, at this point, with the mid Phoenix already down, gold still on the map in the form of both tier 2 towers, those tier 2s will basically finish a lot of what Renegades are looking to buy. I mean, Titan's Bane will be done for Dardez. Could be an Emperor's Armor, I'm guessing, is the way that iRaffer is probably going to go with that Iron Mail. So you've got some items coming that are really going to make a difference.
I'd had it a bush if I was you too, Cyclone, with how this one's going. Gosh, awkward situation then for Splyce, but no discredit to how Renegades have played so far. They are knocking on the door of Splyce once more. This time, not even a back door, they're just at the front door, barreling down now for this left-hand Phoenix. They have played so well all tournament, and they're looking like they may go completely undefeated at the mid-season Invitational.
I love that they aren't even worrying about this tier 2 tower on right. Who cares about it? I mean, you've got a minute and 15 left on this FG. You're up 11k at this point. Just run it down, man. Make Splyce defend.
Renegades with a chance to win their very first tournament as a full team here at Mid-Season Invitational, and already attention starting to turn towards Phase 2 for a lot of these teams in regards to getting themselves to the World Championship. iRaffer, Nika on the front line, clearing out the minions, but Funballer and Cherryo did return back to the jungle relatively quick just to take that red buff and give it over to Funballer, who definitely wants it on that Chronos.
This is big. Now you've got a red buff Chronos, full build, by the way. He can get in there and start to do a lot of damage to these Phoenixes. I think that patience is worth it.
Fight in mid lane from Cherryo forces the ultimate out from Scream defensively. At the same time, Renegades engage on the left-hand side. Nika chasing out Venenu as far as he can. Aror, meanwhile, still trying to body block alongside Baskin. But the ultimate used by Venenu defensively, and Nika and Cherryo around the back of Baskin and Aror now.
But Phoenix still stands. Good shell from iRaffer, immunes quite a bit of damage coming from Baskin. But look at Cherryo just eat Aror.
Aror still alive for the time being. The Phoenix, on the other hand, a different story. iRaffer gets credit for the kill on CycloneSpin. And into the base go Renegades. I think they wait for the minions from the mid lane first of all. Blink from Aror, Yawn on 2. iRaffer and Dardez pinned in place, but no follow-up available.
Dardez jumping in, looking for the Desert's Fury, and they find Venenu in the fountain. Scream goes down as well. Looking good for the Renegades.
It is good for the Renegades. It's 3-0. It's been 3-0 or 2-0 all week long. And Renegades have done what they came here to do. They win the tournament undefeated. And my oh my, there's a target on their back heading into phase 2.
The 6th seed coming in. Unbelievable for this squad to go completely undefeated. And there's no doubt about it. They were the best team here this weekend. I think that all about this meta that's kind of developed in the semi-pressure, semi-fire giant fight, you don't really know which way each match is going to go. Even based on picks and bans sometimes, you can't really tell which way it's going to end up. But Renegades really paced it and forced it to be exactly the way that they wanted it to be. They played this meta perfectly. It fits them so well, and their teamwork is really what impressed me more than anything else.
Completely agree with you. Like, this is the sort of meta that you'd love to be if you're Renegades, and they are playing it to the best of their ability too, which makes it very tricky for other teams to try and answer that back. If you're in a meta that doesn't necessarily go your way in terms of your playstyle, it's awkward anyway. But then you go against a team time and time again that just knows the meta and plays it so well. It's a tough task to ask.
You know what the tougher task to ask is
MVP.
Who's the MVP?
Yeah, I was thinking
exactly.
the same thing.
I really think it's a 3-man race. I mean, Nika played so well that game, but for the majority of the tournament, I think it's been the 3-man in mid. It's Cherryo, iRaffer, and Dardez. I think all 3 of them are incredibly deserving.
I'm actually of the opinion that everyone gets it on the Renegades. It's a team MVP vote. Can we
come
do
on.
that?
No, we can't
Can
do
we do that?
It's the most valuable player, Graham.
Players. Just add an S.
One player.
Just add an S. It's
one
okay, right?
player. That's the way an MVP works.
Well, let's find out anyway. Let's get over to the desk for Tom and Tolly to break down the finals.
When iRaffer wants to win, iRaffer wins. The team came together, Renegades, and I focused on iRaffer, but all 5 of the players absolutely did their work. I'm just looking at iRaffer as the general to put everybody together. Totally 3 games quicker than people expected.
Oh, yeah.
Less games than people expected. But after the performance yesterday, the performance today, I mean, this is a freight train.
Renegades showed a little bit of their meta yesterday against Dignitas, and Splyce tried to adapt to it. You know, between banning away the Anhur, it wasn't enough. Renegades, without dropping a single game, are crowned the MSI champions for Season 6.
That's the insane part. 2-0, 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah.
Not a single game dropped, and most of those weren't close either. These, I don't understand what is going on here, but the Renegades are on something else, man. And, you know, listening to them win, as we're walking over here to the set, I heard them from their booths.
Oh, yeah.
This team is very excited. It's just, you'll love to see it.
This play by iRaffer, saving out Cherryo's life at the last possible second. Just look at this play.
Waiting for
Frame perfect.
That was frame perfect. That was insane.
The fact
Really?
that Baskin still got off that damage and it wasn't enough for lethal is crazy. If he had like 5 more magical power, Cherryo was dead.
Just an all-out slaughter. Cherryo, a big part of it as well. Damage coming out, and as that one ends, iRaffer helping him out. Nika here able to control the team fights. Great stuff, man. Everybody performed, I think, in this game number 3. There wasn't a single slouch. There wasn't a single anchor. There wasn't a single moment where you're sitting there going, maybe somebody else would be a better choice. This team is impressive.
Splyce made some good adjustments in game number 3. The game stalled out quite heavily, I would say. 16.5 minutes until we saw the very first goal theory attempt, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough, especially with Nika coming in to play cleanup crew, getting those 2 early kills.
That was the deal. You had power on both sides of the map, even in the middle, and Splyce didn't really have an answer. That was one of the problems. Where do you think Splyce went wrong? When they go back and they watch the VODs, how does Splyce fix this?
It was a problem of game 1 and game 2 because that third game should have been the very first game of how it should have went out, but because of their early blue buff invades in games 1 and 2 epically failing, they got snowballed on, and then that transitioned into red buff invades that Renegades were able to just kind of show off. And I think this is how Splyce needs to make adjustments, is lean on their strengths. Like, Aror is a great player in the support lane, but he wasn't making the necessary offensive plays. Instead, he was getting capitalized because he was too predictable.
Renegades absolutely were making the plays here. They take this trophy. This, though, is just the mid-season invitational. Of course, towards the end of the year, as per usual, the SMITE World Championship will take place at Hi-Res Expo. And today, we're going to show you how it's done. Round number 1 is going to have the PlayStation and the Xbox teams facing off amongst each other to go ahead and face off against some of the bottom of the SPL, who will also, the other 2 bottoms will play against the SML. And then round 3 is really where it all starts to get chunky. Meat and potatoes from there into semis and finals, but it's going to be double elimination apparently. You see the losers bracket as well. We're going to go all the way through this as well. So essentially, if you're unfamiliar, once you lose, you go down to the second bracket and you have a second chance. Once that's all well and done, here is the finals bracket. SPLs 1 through 6 get put right up here. The placement teams, they come from the console. We saw them play against each other. The minor league, whatever 2 wind up on the top of that will play against SPL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And those will be your 8 teams competing for the hammer.
And you're not going to want to miss it between November 15th through the 17th at the World Congress Center. Splyce, they were the World Championship team last time around without Divios, without Maswell, without Sino. I think their roster adjustments were actually better now, at least chemistry-wise, of what they've been able to show in the regular season, but it just wasn't enough today up against Renegades, who looked like an iron fist.
Renegades are on a different level. They have ascended to become an incredible team. All 5 players combined today for the victory, and all 5 players are standing by.
I'm here live now with the mid-season invitational champions, Renegades. Guys, congratulations first of all. Who do I speak to? Who wants to speak? Raf, get in there. Okay, first question. You came into this year expecting this team to do very well. They've performed amazingly overall. Is it got this far ahead as quick as you expected them to?
You don't tell them they played amazingly, because next split we're just going to troll again. Scrims are either hot or cold. I'd say very cold, yeah, as Jerry said. The hot ones were basically, we're just completely stomping them. I was thinking this team can win Worlds. We'd go into the next game, Dardez is trolling. I'm tired of saying people are trolling, but it just always happens. But we're good. I think we can win Worlds with this team. Obviously, we went to this LAN not even dropping a game, never mind a set. Yeah, everyone played lights out. Everyone's MVP in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it was very difficult for the MVP to get chosen here as well. Fun, I want to get a quick question with you as well. This year coming into it, I mean, the roughness of last year, the fans at home got to see it too, of how tricky it was for you and the SK boys. But coming into this year, you had a lot to prove. Do you feel you've proved it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the main thing is that I wanted to play with iRaffer, and then Cherryo was a bit, you know, he's like, yeah, let's go. And I've played with Cherryo before. I wanted to play with Cherryo and all that, and I think I've proved enough, like, that I'm good enough. Yeah.
Do you boys feel like any of you deserve the MVP over the others?
I feel like everyone contributed so much.
Can I just have it then? Is that right?
Yeah, you can split it up maybe.
Am I going to get my first MVP?
I mean, okay, let's see.
Oh, I got really excited.
I don't know, dude. I don't know who's going to get MVP. Like, I think maybe iRaffer, honestly.
You know what? You know what? Funballer was already right, because I think that's where it's going to go here. Ryan's coming on now, because in fairness, this is a whole team, but I do think Rafa had a big part of it as well, and some of those performances have been great. Not often a support gets it either. Cherryo, I mean, I'm going to come to you because I feel like you're a support jungle for the most part as well. How do you feel about your performances? This is something you've always wanted to do.
I'm just glad I was able to change my playstyle for this LAN, because my old playstyle wasn't working into a lot of the teams, so I just decided like I need to switch it up. I already tried against PK in the SPL and it went really bad. So I was like scarred from that, never tried it again till like the split was over, but then since we had a break I had time to like practice again, and I'm glad I was able to change it for this LAN.
Nika, from you, we don't get too many interviews with you overall. You're one of the quieter members, but one of the newer members on the scene too. How are you feeling?
I mean, it's us three. It's our first LAN win, so it feels amazing for us to such a great boost of confidence that we've all proven ourselves now, and we can build on that and get to Worlds next phase and win it.
And Dardez, finally coming to you. Anhur one trick is what I heard this week. How does it feel?
It feels amazing. I don't know. Like Anhur is open. I'll pick it, I guess. I don't know.
Did you expect you guys to do as well as you've done when you joined this team and you know Rafa spoke to you all about it? Did you really think it would go this well?
At the start, not really, because we were like losing every stream. But yeah, I think we had potential for sure. And yeah, I think we did it, I guess.
What was the biggest win condition for you guys? What was it?
In this set,
all 5 people alive, we win. That's it.
Yeah.
Just because if all 5 people are alive, we win because everyone's so talented. Just who can you kill? and then everyone pops. So
Like, I think the main thing is if I die, you got Dardez, Cherry, Nika carrying. If Nika dies, you got somebody else carrying. Like, that's the main thing. And I think the main thing into this split, yeah, pick some bans, but I think we just, yeah, who do you ban? Like,
Yeah, we outdraft.
like to take.
Yeah. Cherryo's over there saying, let's go now get cocky, boys, real quick. Big congratulations to you all again. The next step is technically phase 2, but now, well, Worlds is going to be a big beast for you because you went undefeated this tournament. Does that put more pressure on potentially?
no, hell no. I just think as long as we play our game, even if we lost, I won't care. Like, this is amazing, like, to experience this with the team. I'm glad these guys have won the first LAN. You know, it's just one of many for me. I'm not talented, but I'm just trolling. But I just enjoy this team so much.
Congratulations again, boys, on your victory today, and iRaffer for the MVP performance. That's it. Renegades win the mid-season Invitational. But we're not done yet today. All Stars is right after the break, and we'll be back with that very soon.